Welcome to another episode of the School Podcast. Today we've got a very special guest and somebody who just literally beat me at table tennis in my own home. Can you believe it? But before we get into this episode, I have to thank our sponsors, Nisai Learning. They're the #1 online school in the UK and the world. Don't Google that. It might not be true, but all I know is check them out. They're unbelievable and been in the game for the last 30 years. Anyway, David, how are we, my friend?
How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
Thank you. So we look less sweaty than we did 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I damaged your floor.
And you damaged my floor because...
So apologies for that.
Commitment, mate. Now I can see why you've got into the position you've got into. I sent it one way and you dived all the way over, And I think we may have it on video as well. Before we get into everything, and I know this conversation today is going to be really good, really valuable, a lot of impact, and I've also seen you in work, right? Yeah. So I've seen what you're like, I've seen what you're about, I've worked in your school. On holiday in Ibiza with your friends, family, kids, and somebody says, what do you do? How would you describe what you do?
So it's an awkward one, really, because obviously throughout your whole career, I've always told everyone I'm a teacher. Yeah. And you just say I'm a teacher, and it starts up conversation. But now that's shifted, and I don't know why that is, because I don't believe I have an ego, but maybe there is a little bit in everybody where now I say I'm a head teacher, and it sparks up a very different conversation. And yeah, I told you I'm a teacher, and then it goes from there, where normally the response, what do you think the responses I get from that? And I tell people I'm a teacher.
Oh, really?
So you'd think, right? That's what I thought. Yeah. So when I was a child, when you saw a teacher or a head teacher, for me, that was like looking at a doctor. It meant something. It read that value, and it still does to me, don't get me wrong. But when I told people now I'm a teacher or I'm a head teacher, is I get the confused look like, I could never do that. Fair play to you. And that's the reputation of what teaching is out there now. That's what head teachers have to now deal with out there, that everyone knows it's a very difficult job and it's a tough job. And rather than me get the congratulations that you normally get, I get the sympathy of what comes in it. And I'm quite shocked about that. I never really thought that would happen, but it does happen quite often.
So let's go back a little bit. We might cover childhood and growing up eventually, but let's just start at teaching first. Did you always want to be a teacher?
No, not really. When I left school, I always thought I was going to be in the Marines. That was just always my thing. I wasn't the best child at school, let's just say. I didn't leave with the best education. And from unfortunate events that happened in my childhood, it was just always the easy option. I was into boxing. I was a very fit person. I loved my sport, and it was just an easy way to move into into a job that really didn't need the education for. But because of my injury to my knees that I had at such a young age, I've had several operations now. Cartilage transplantation, I had some very invasive operations on my knees on both of them. I failed my medical on 3 occasions, and they just said I couldn't go in. And it was only when I turned 26, I lost my granddad, who was like the father figure to me. And I moved to Birmingham to be with what was my girlfriend, to be with my wife. And I needed to make some decisions. I needed to make some decisions to change my life. And I always knew that I wanted to help and support people. My wife was a teacher, very inspirational person. And I just knew that I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to put right some of the wrongs that had gone through my past. And I just knew that I had a lot more to give than what I was giving. So at 26, I went to university. And that was when I then just literally said, right, I'm going to give it my all, and I'm going to go in for this, and I'm going to do everything that I can to move where I can. And I moved up quite quickly, to be honest, through the system. But I put a graft in to get there. Yeah.
So I feel like to move forward now, we have to take 2 steps back. What was your childhood like? For you to say you didn't do well in school, did you come out with any GCSEs?
Not really, no. But I think it's important to understand in the school I went to, in the context of the school is, and I tell people this, and they think it's a joke, and it's really not. It's genuinely. There was one person in my whole entire year group who got every subject A to C.
Wow.
And he didn't get any B's or A's. Wow. He just got all C's. The school shut down the year I left. There was a school called Wolford Meadows, and it was just
Where
very
challenging.
The Meadows in Nottingham.
Nottingham, yeah.
So it was a very gang affiliated area, a very challenging area. It was a very challenging school, and it just wasn't built, unfortunately, for high aspirations or children to go on and thrive and do the best that they could in school. It was the bar was very low, behaviour was very poor. And that was just that was the norm. And I think it's only when you get older you look back and you take a step and you go, wow. but you don't realize at the time. At the time, you're a kid, you're having fun. The lack of aspirations, the fun that you can have is something that just overwhelms you as a child, and you live for the moment. And it's only when you get older and you realize at 25 you don't really have much going on, is then those things trigger in where you go, right, I need to sort this out.
So what did you do from the age of 16 to 25, 26?
Honestly, the list is absolutely is crazy. I was an electrician for a period of time. That didn't work. I was a phone technician. I have packed cheese. I have been for TNT. I worked for a personal trainer. I worked in a gym. Oh, the list is just endless. It was just, I worked for Boots. It was just job after job after job after job, trying to figure out where I landed and what I wanted to do. And it was just more of I went to work to go to work. There was no ambition there. There was no purpose to what I was doing. It was just, I went to work to get paid.
So then when you ended up going to university, how was that being in uni, being 26?
Yeah, very different. It was a really, everyone talks about university being the best years of their life. I went to university, and in that 3 years, I never went out once. There's not one person that I spoke to or continued to speak to after I left university. It was strictly business. I still worked full time for the first 2 years at university. So I worked full time. I would work 5 till 1 in the morning. So I would go to university all day, and I'd leave university, sometimes leave my lectures early, go straight to work. I had a mortgage, I had things to pay for. But they're the sacrifices you have to make, right? Like, I knew I wanted to make a change and make a difference. I knew I wanted to be a teacher at this point, and I knew that's what I needed to do in order to get there. And on my days off from university, I would then volunteer and work in schools to get my name out there and try and get some experience. It was a very different experience for me at university.
Yeah. So in short, from leaving uni, being a teacher, how quick was the journey to headship, and where are you currently now, and how long you've been a head teacher for?
Yeah, so it went, I'd say, relatively quite quick, but in that short space of time, I think what I've been able to do is move from place to place. I'm someone that, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, I'm still trying to figure this out. I'm not someone who, I like a challenge. I like to push myself. I like to make sure that I'm making a difference. What I don't want to do is just coast. I think life's too short. So what I've done is been at several schools. I've worked at alternative provisions. I've worked at challenging schools. I've worked at better schools. I've worked at outstanding schools that requires improvements. And I've spent 2-3 years in different schools doing different positions, from assistant head of year to assistant head, deputy heads, head teacher. And I've moved quite a few times, which has given me the experience that I need to then move to where I am. I've been a head teacher now for a year and a half now, coming up to. So, yeah.
How important, or it might not be important, and we might talk a bit about kind of cultural capital later on, especially considering your background and stuff, but how important, because I think it is, having experience doing different jobs, living a different life, instead of being fresh out of uni at 21, 22, straight into teaching. Has that experience of going from job to job, doing this and doing that, experiencing a wide range of different challenges, has that helped you as a teacher, as an educator? Do you think it makes you more relatable to the students? Can you give them a little bit of a different advice?
Yeah.
What's your stance on that?
I totally believe it does. I really do. It's. But we talked about, is it more relatable to students? Yeah, I think I would only work in disadvantaged schools. So because of my past, I think that makes me more relatable to students. I think it makes me more relatable to staff, for me to understand. I understand what work-life balance is. I understand what hard work is. But I think the most important one that you forgot there is the parents. I get the parents, I get the struggles, I get what they've been through, I get what some of them have to go through within the school setting. And when I then have conversations, because what you can do, especially when you're a school that has high expectations and you're labelled as being strict, is what they will do so often is pigeonhole you, and they will put you in a box where they will say, you've got an ego, or you're full of yourself, or you're this, or you're that. I've heard it all. And reality is then when they meet me and when we have discussions, when we have conversations, that quickly changes, where they realise that I'm just like them, but I just want the best for their children.
Okay.
And there's a huge difference between being strict and having high expectations and having good foundations. And that comes across once they hear me talk, or when we have assemblies, or when I do open evenings. And I think that changes that narrative quite quickly of what they perceived at the start. And I think that's all to do with my past and all to do with the things that I had to go through and the different jobs that I had and the different people I get to meet. There's nothing more scarier. And we look at the shortage of teachers now that's happening in the country. And there's a pandemic within itself because of it. And you look at that. And one of the main reasons has to be is you have these young children. And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, who, let's say a child who does, a young adult who does teach first. They've come fresh from university. They've gone from school to college. They've gone from university for 3 years, and then 2 weeks later they're in a classroom, and they're in a classroom in 2026, which, no disrespect, is very different to a classroom in 2006. Now the needs of those children in the classrooms, the way education has changed, is they've now got to try and navigate all of that with very little experience, with very little life experience, and all of a sudden they're chucked into that whirlwind of what education is now, and they're expected to navigate their way through that with a classroom of 30 kids, half of which have got additional needs. And then you've got the pressures of workload, which they're probably not used to because they haven't been in the world of work. And then we wonder why they're dropping out at an alarming rate. And it's not mind blowing to me. I look at it and I go, I get it. Like I see it firsthand.
Yeah.
And that's where I think what we have to do more in education, and I'm probably getting off topic here now, is we've got to protect our staff more. Like, we spend so often, and rightfully so, I'm all for the kids. Like, I am all for the kids. There is no one who's more for the kids than me. Like,
I've seen it.
You've seen it. Like, and I think sometimes that can, like I said, people can see it in a different light when they have their own narrative. But you have to be all for the staff, and you have to protect the staff. Because if you don't protect those staff, who's then going to be looking after the kids? And I think sometimes that's what's lost in education. And I think sometimes we don't understand that as much as we should understand it, because it is a problem. And it's being diluted, and the members of staff. I remember back in the days when when I first came to education, you'd put a job advert out and there'd be 100 applicants and everyone's fighting for that one job.
Wow.
Because they all want to be a science teacher or they all want to be a maths teacher. And now you put an ad out and you see what's coming through, and it's not the same. So you have to grow and develop, and you have to keep your staff. It's really difficult.
Let's stay on this topic. But how has education changed in those 20 years? So you made a point that, it's not 2006 anymore. What does that mean? What has changed in that period? Even if it's not backed by research or data, what's the feeling that you have?
It's a multiple of things, and I can't put my finger on one thing. But if I had to, I would just say there's been a shift. I think there's a shift in parenting, if I'm being honest. I think there's a shift in culture, in society. And look, and there's pros and cons to all of it. What I'm not here to do is turn around and say it's because of parents.
No, but you are. Like the whole society thing, I think there has been a shift.
No, there has. I totally agree.
But even not just parent, it could be everyone.
Everything.
And I don't know if it's COVID, and I hate talking about COVID now because it feels like it's a blame game a little bit.
Agreed.
But everything just seems like it's optional.
And that's what it is. I think we've lost that ability where it's. Let me break this down. So when we talk about how the society has changed, back in the day, and I say back in the day like we're 100 years old.
You old git.
Yeah. Back in the day is children would go out and play. They would go out and they wouldn't be glued to a screen.
Yeah.
They would have conversations, and we talk about the traditional family. And again, I'm going to stereotype now, so I hope this doesn't cause any offences. What would traditionally happen back in the days is you would have sometimes one parent who would work, another parent who would stay at home and read to the children and take the children to school. You can't do that these days now. You have to have two working parents. And children spend so much time now, they don't sit and have dinner with their family. No. They don't sit and talk about school. They don't sit and as a family and do homework. They don't sit now and have dinner together and play outside football together. And kids are just coming home and being on the screens for 6-7 hours, and they go to school. And parents are really busy. Parents are struggling to make ends meet, especially in the schools that I work in. So when then we're ringing up and saying, look, we have these issues maybe with your child and we need to see improvements, is parents get frustrated. You can see it. They get frustrated because they don't have the tools. They don't know how to fix this problem. And then you have the increase then of children with additional needs. You can see the alarming rates of how many children are being diagnosed with all different types of autism, ADHD, OSD, which is rightfully so. And obviously we need to make those reasonable adjustments for those children within those school settings. But you're asking then 21-year-olds to navigate that within a classroom. And then you're saying, right, here's a class of 32 and you've got 7 kids in that class who needs this reason adjustments and this additional, and then you've got to make sure that the lesson is challenged so every single person can access that curriculum. That sounds really easy when I just say that off my tongue. That's not really easy for a 21-year-old, and that's not one of the problems. That's just one of many problems.
But you also then have to, even for people like ourselves, you then have to put yourself back in the shoes of a 22-year-old. Now, you and me could go into any room with anything and just do your thing. Now, we might not even have to prepare anything. Okay, cool. We know what to do. I've been doing it 15 years. You've been doing it a long time. So, like, it's easy now, but it's repetition after repetition of those bad lessons. But if you take yourself back to the age of 22, wow, like, I can't even remember like what type of person I was at 22.
Of course.
You were probably delivering parcels or in a gym, and then you've got all these students in front of you, but then you've also got the pressure of the head teachers, and there's sometimes in many schools I go to, the pressure on the teachers created by SLT, and that could be because of the trust above them as well. But you can see why it happens.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that, created by SLT. Now, I want to touch on that in a second, but let me go back. Let me ask you a question.
NISI brings the classroom to you, delivering high-quality live education for learners who need a different approach, whether fully remote or through our hybrid zones within schools, providing accredited teacher-led sessions no matter where you are. As a DFE Section 41 approved provider, NISI is trusted by schools and local authorities to support learners nationwide. Visit nisi.com to learn more.
When you was 20...
Mate, this is my podcast. You can't ask me questions, mate. I'm joking. Go on.
Okay. Oh, my heart's not there. So when you was 20, like, did you go out with your friends?
To be fair, mate, I was very... I think you and me are very similar. So I was in... I think I just went to uni then, so I went like a year and a half later, similar backgrounds, etc., etc. So for me, I've always been, once I took my life around, probably from the age of 18, 19, I was all work. So I was at uni, doing primary in at night from 10 at night to 7 in the morning. So I've never really been a...
But you just used the word of, once you turn your life around, that there has given you the tools to do the amazing things that you're doing now. And that's the person that you've become. Yeah. And it's really important that you've turned that, what we could say as perceived as a negative, into a positive. And that's what I see.
I do regret it a little bit, though.
Oh, there's always things that we regret. There's always things to
what
regret.
I mean by that, I just think sometimes, like, I was that person, a bit of, like, toxic positivity. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to watch TV. I ain't got time for that. Got to work hard in a gym, working all night. But actually, maybe I was just, trying to fill a hole from my upbringing.
See, I disagree with you. So, and the reason I disagree with you is, look, there are many things that I could turn around now and tell you the things that I done as a child, where I look back and go, who was I? Why did I do that? But then I look at who I am as a teacher. I look at who I am as a leader. I look at who I am as a father, as a husband, and all those incidents that happened in my past are what made me who I am today. They made me have empathy. They made me understand life better. They made me appreciate the things that I didn't appreciate. And that I believe they made me who I am today. So whilst, yes, there are things I regret, I also understand that made me, and that's made you who you are, because that's given you the purpose of where you are today. And that's when we look at the disadvantaged children. And again, I know I'm flipping between the two, is that's what I think we lose so much in education, is the fact of the disadvantaged children. What we do is we lower the bar so much for them, where actually what we need to be doing is raising the bar and saying to them, you might have to fight a little bit harder. Tough. So what? Fight harder. Life's tough. Get a helmet. Like, we spend way too often, it's true though, we spend way too often making excuses. And what we need to do is say, yeah, okay, you might have to work harder because of the colour of your skin. What a horrible world we live in. Or you might have to work harder because of your gender, or because of your religious beliefs, or because of your background, or because of your parents. Okay, then work harder then, and prove to everyone that you can do it. And what we need to do is stop making excuses and give people the tools to be able to do that. And the key is giving them tools and using those experiences to better themselves and be the best versions of themselves. I read a book a long time ago. I'm not going to sit here and advocate so that I'm a huge reader, because I'm not. But Oprah Winfrey.
They're only for sure.
I've got the same in my office. They're collecting dust. I can tell you that. And because you read well, I'm like, no, I really don't. But you look at people like Oprah Winfrey, and you look at the horrific things that she went through. And I remember someone saying to her once, and this really stuck with me. They said to her, if you could, that's horrendous that you went through, like, do you wish you could turn back and change it? And I believe she was sexually assaulted when she was younger. And she said, no, I wouldn't change a damn thing. She goes, because that is what made me who I am today. And the person I am today is because of what I had to go through as a child. And I think the best people, some of the best people, were the ones that have been through those life experiences, and the ones that want to make the most change, like yourself, is because of what you've been through, or what you've witnessed, or what you've seen. And I think we have so many children like that, but we've got to tap into it. But we so often take the easy route and go, oh no, but they're just, they've got a poor background, or they don't have the support that they should have, so we're going to give them a pass. And I'm like, I don't think we should give them a pass. I actually think we should push them more, because they need it more. The child in the private school or the grammar school doesn't need it. They're probably, if they fail education, they're probably going to be all right, statistically speaking. These children aren't. And that's why we've got to be different.
How do you get new teachers, not necessarily new to education, new to teaching, but people who come into your school to teach, they're new. How do you get them to see what you just explained? So they may have not come, they may have went to private school and now they're a teacher, so they wouldn't have known the background you serve. But I also don't feel that lived experience is really important sometimes, but it's not everything. But it's also kind of what you said, that compassion, that empathy. How do we teach them that? How do we get them to really understand what disadvantage looks like? How do we get them to understand what these students go through even before 9 a.m., right? If they've never lived that life.
I think what you've just asked there is the most important question that you could ask any head teacher in a disadvantaged school. I think that is the key. And the key is, we have all these...
So it's going to be probably in your answer as well. Just in a disadvantaged school, though. What about some schools, which is only got 20% pupil premium? Which is sometimes harder to...
Do you know what? It's not even disadvantaged school. It's every school. It's the key, and it's the key to everything. And people always ask is, what is the key? The key is you've got to get buy-in. You've got to get staff in on board. You've got to get staff that want to do it, that want to change. Because unfortunately, we live in a world where some staff will turn up because they want the holidays. Some staff will want to be teachers because they get a bursary of £20,000 to be a maths teacher, so now they're going to pick to be maths, even though they had no interest in maths.
Maths teacher?
Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's exactly it. I picked the wrong one. No one's going to bursaries for PE teachers. But unfortunately, that is the world we live in, is where people might go in because they've watched an ad on TV what says come into teaching, and they make it look great, and they make it look really like, oh, this is the best job in the world, and then they come in, the reality hits hard. But that is the key, is you've got to get staff on board. You have to have staff rowing all together. You have to have them committed to what the vision is, what the journey is. And it's what I say to staff all the time. And I've used the same slides over and over again. And I always use them in every PowerPoint that I do. The first slide I always put up, I always say, I'll put a picture of a burning house up. Always do the same thing. And I say, if you don't like children, sorry, that's not what I say. I always put a picture of a burning house. I'll say, if you don't like fire, then don't be a fireman. And then I say, if you don't like blood, don't be a paramedic. If you don't like children, or you don't want to change the narrative or the statistic, or you don't want to go that extra mile to make sure that we get the very best for these children and we make them as successful as we can, then don't be a teacher in my school. Because I think it's really important that you understand what you're investing in. And for so often, we don't. We lose the will, and we look at teaching as it's a job. And I'm not trying to belittle any other job. I'm not. I've done those other jobs. I worked at a delivery place at TNT. I worked as an electrician, and it was just a job for me. I turned up, I got paid, I went home. I did what I needed to do. I fixed the lights. I would go and deliver the parcels, and then I would go home and I got paid. And I didn't think about work. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever you look at it, that's not for me what a teacher is. A teacher is, you've got to be invested. You've got to want to do it. You've got to have a passion to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to be as successful as you could be. Or it's not fair on those children. It's not a job you can do half-heartedly. I just don't believe that. So you've got to really get those staff on board, but you've got to lead by example. They've got to see, and they've got to see that what you're saying, what you're preaching is you're doing yourself, and they've got to have the buy-in. You've got to motivate them. And that's what a leader does, right? A leader gets people on board. A leader gets people to see the vision. And that's my job. My job is to make sure they can understand the importance and the role that we're doing. And they will see that when they start seeing improvements. Because when they start seeing improvements and they see that actually the job is good and the glass isn't half full, how many people go in and they look at the glass and they say it's half empty? And I say this all the time, is life is good. Life is a gift. We are blessed. We are really privileged. But sometimes you can't see that because we look at the negative rather than the positive. I say we get to come to work every day. We don't have to. We get to. We don't have to come to work every day. We don't have to be teachers. We get to be teachers. We get to come in every day and we get to change the lives of these young people every single day. And is it going to be challenging? Yes. Tell me what. Look where you've got to today. Was that easy? Have you had bumps in the road?
Yeah.
Have you had to fight? Have you had to fight to get what you want? Have you had times when you think this is not worth it, I want to quit?
All the time.
Exactly. And if every person quit, then they wouldn't succeed. And this is what I try and explain to them all the time. If we want to create something special, and sometimes it's the most unrewarding job being a teacher. And I say this all the time because you don't get to know it there and then. You don't see it at the time. You might invest into that child for 5 years and they might leave okay. And I always say this, but we made it to the end. Where in lots of other schools, they would have failed and they would have been part of the system right now. And we got them to the end. And then you see the kid when the kid's 25 years old. And I'm telling you, 99% of the time, when you see a kid who was a really challenging kid, when they've turned themselves around, they come up to you when they're 25, 26 and they shake your hand and they say, thank you so much. Like, you was the difference. And that might take 7, 8, 9 years for you to get that back. Because all the way through your head going, that kid was a nightmare. Oh my God, how much my life would be easier if that kid wasn't in my school. But you don't realize the difference that you're making. And sometimes you don't realize until 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And it took me to realize that when I was at school, there was two teachers that really looked after me, that really put me under their wing. They paid for me to go on school trips. They always defended me. And I truly believe it's because of them was a big part of me turning out the way that I turn around, because they installed something in me that I didn't have. And they made me at times not cross the line, which I quite easily could have on so many occasions. And I don't think teachers understand that fully. And I think that comes with time and experience when you see children who have left school and then they've come back years later and you go, okay, I made that difference there. Or they send you that card.
Yep.
Like, people want gifts. Gifts, look, they're nice, but it's not about gifts. And I say this all the time. What's really valuable for children is when they give you a card and it's handwritten and they're telling you how they feel. They're telling what you've done. The amount of times I get now emails from children who I taught 6, 7, 8 years ago, and they've looked me up and they've sent me an email. Just want to let you know this is what I'm doing now. And I just want to say thank you.
Wow.
And they're the bits. They're the bits you've got to install into your staff. They're the bits that you've got to make staff understand that there's a bigger picture, that it's going to be tough and it's going to be hard, but we need you on board, because if we don't, who is? There's a shortage of teachers. And if we don't do it for those children, who's going to do it for them? Because some of these children, unfortunately, don't have the support system in place for them to succeed. And we have to be that support system. And I think that's what being a teacher is. And I really do believe that. I really, really do.
Couple things I want to touch on, which you just pulling you up on a little bit. You said you can't teach half-heartedly, where that might be the case in your school.
Yeah.
But I think you can, and you can still do a bad job.
Agreed.
Right? So I don't really know what my question could be, but in schools where there's a lot of teachers teaching half-heartedly,
yeah,
can we get that back? Can they get the love back? Can they get the passion back? Is there a way for them to get it back? Is it a shift in environment? Is there something, a head teacher who comes in, can they do something? Because because there are a lot of people, society again, a lot of people just doing stuff half-heartedly, and you can get away with it.
No, I agree.
And it's not just the teaching, it's everyone. You know, you can just do the bare minimum sometimes, where you just do just enough where you don't get fired, but you're not really doing anything more.
Yeah.
Because you're like, why do I need to? And just, I actually seen a TikTok the other day, and it was interesting, and it was like a brickie, and he was doing a TikTok, and he was saying, when you got work at 8 o'clock, that doesn't mean you come in at 8 o'clock. That means you come in at 10 to 8, you get ready, you get your stuff on, and you're ready to work at 8 o'clock. Doesn't mean you shut up at 8 o'clock and you get ready after that. And then somebody basically clipped it and was like, no, am I getting paid for that extra time?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. So I'm going to shut up at 8 o'clock and I'm going to get ready. And all the comments were like, yeah, I agree. Like, 10 minutes every day is like 50 minutes a week and this and that. And I totally agree with that stance.
Yeah.
I think you
Me
should
too.
be.
Yeah, I totally agree.
8 o'clock, you're late.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a mentality of a lot of people. And not everyone has to be like us. Not everyone has to be driving forward, working hard, ambitious. You don't have to be. It's not necessary. Not everyone needs a dream, right? And sometimes me having a dream can sometimes be a massive challenge, because sometimes I wish I could just on Friday night just go home and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
But it's just not in my nature, right?
No, I agree.
But how do we get that half-hearted and fill it up a little bit more, especially working with our children, because they're the ones who are going to feel that, see that, and they're the ones who are going to be impacted by that.
Do you know what the biggest reason is why people leave education?
I don't.
So two of the biggest reasons why people leave education is because what we do so often is we don't actually tackle the problem. What we do is we say what the problem is, but then we don't tackle the root of the problem. So the biggest reasons why people leave education, teachers, is behaviour, which I totally understand. And that's definitely got worse over the years, like I was talked about earlier. And the other one is leadership. Now, when I say leadership in a school, what do you think of?
SLT.
SLT. So the head teacher, the SLT, the deputy heads, the assistant heads. I would also say, me personally, I think everyone in the school is a leader, because we're all responsible to lead everyone. Whether you're a head of year, assistant head of year, whether you are not, whether you're a standard teacher, your job is still to lead and motivate your department in a way. However, that's the job. As when we traditionally say leadership, it's got to come from the top, right? So sort that out. First and foremost, lead by example. Stop telling everyone what they need to do and then you're not doing it yourself. I'm on shop floor all the time. I'm probably on shop floor way too much. But it's leading by example and teaching people and educate them. Okay.
So I was delivering a session in your school. I think in 1 hour, I think you like 4 times, 5 times. And I was like, what's he doing now? And even the kids and the kids are like, that's just him. That's just him.
So I have a rule. I have a rule called thumbs up. Okay, and I do. I have.
But like, because
the kids know.
So I didn't know at the time. Obviously, the school went through a bit of a transition. You become the head teacher. At this point, you wasn't my main contact at the time, right? So I didn't really have much to do with you. And every time I was in school, I didn't really get a chance to meet you. And I remember you bounced in at the start of my session. You gave me a fist bump. He said, "Are you winning, sir?" I was like, yeah. And he was like, good, have a good day. And you bounce back out again. I said, who's that? And they were like, that's the head teacher.
But I could tell you what though, right? And it's really important that you said that, because I talk about mood hoovers. So when I talk about, I show slides.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of slides that I want to tell you that I always.
And there's not many people who out energy me. You caught me so off guard, because I'm normally that guy.
But you have to, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about the slides that I show, so there's always one slide. I put the Godfather up. I always do this. I end every presentation I ever do. I end with say slide. I do, honestly, it's true.
With the Godfather.
The Godfather, and I always put, it's not personal. It's just business, because we have to be able to have these honest conversations. Look. We want everyone to have their shirts tucked in or no fake eyelashes. I've seen a child walk past your room and he had his shirt untucked, or he had fake eyelash and you didn't pick it up. Or I want everyone out on the view positions and you're not on the view positions. I will say it's not personal. I need to be able to have those conversations. We need to be able to address that there and then, because we have to all row and we have to all work together. But I'm going to be out and doing that as well. You're going to see me on every transition. You're going to see me out and about. When I'm in that school, I get into that school every day at 5:30, 6 in the morning. Now, I'm not asking everyone to do that. I'm not, because there has to be a work-life balance. However, I will do my work then, because I want to be out as much as I can in the day and supporting my staff. And I do a thing called thumbs up. So I walk around, I try and get round. I can't do it every lesson, obviously. I've got other stuff I need to do and meetings, etc. But I'll walk around, I do my thumbs up. And that's to every member of staff. And I'll literally go, right, I can get around the school in 7 minutes, every classroom. I do, yeah. And I'm absolutely like, look at the soles of my feet, the soles of my shoes. I have to go through them.
They're
like,
on the floor down there
every
now.
floor. I have to go through them every couple of months. I have to replace my shoes. I go around, I do a thumbs up. And that's just me saying, are you okay? And if you're not, tell me. Like, I don't want to have this culture where you can't have a conversation. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to tell me that actually the class have come in and they're not settled very well. Can you have a conversation with them? It's okay to say, look, I'm really sorry, I didn't get a chance to go to the toilet. Can you look after my class for 2 minutes while I go to the toilet? It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, look, I'm really sorry, I've left something in my office. I need to go and get it quickly because that's going to be the missing part to my lesson. Can you take over my lesson? It's okay. It's just my way of showing support, but it also shows the children that I'm out and about and I'm looking into every lesson. And I think, and that's not, that sounds like I'm Miss Trenchford, like it's a fear factor.
No,
it's
no,
not.
No, yeah.
But I think you have to be visible. And I think, I say the same to my SLT.
But the kids' response, like when you came in and I was like, who's that? That's the head teacher. Oh, cool. Like, what a guy. And then she's come.
But that's it.
And I said, because I had, at that time, it was like my 5th lesson, I think, with these students. And I said, what's he doing? And they're like, that's just Sir. He's the man.
But yeah, well, I don't know about that part. But what I would say is we talk about, again, I talk about me having them open, honest conversations with members of staff where I talk about it's not personal, it's just business. I always put a picture, and again, I always do this as well. I always put a picture of a Hoover. And I always say, don't be a mood hoover. Don't be a mood hoover, it's contagious. One of the biggest problems in schools, and we never talk about the actual problems of schools as well, because we focus a lot on the children, and rightfully so at times. But what we don't always focus on the culture of staff and the negativity of it's difficult and it's hard, and we understand that. Like I said before, life's tough, get a helmet. We don't have to, we get to. But what we do so often is we have negative cultures in the school. And you and I both know, if I sat here now and I was really low in mood and I was down and you said, do you want to play table tennis? And I said, no. And then I sat here now and I was just sinking in my seat and I was just like, yeah. That would give you a different energy, right? Because you wouldn't bounce off that energy. We wouldn't be able to relate to each other because you're very high energy, I'm very high energy, and we could connect on that. If you're low energy in school, that's going to set that culture. So when I go around and I'm like, how you doing? And I'm a bit of a hugger. So I hug my staff, I give them a fist pump, I'll make a joke, we'll have a bit of a laugh, I do Feel Good Fridays, and the energy is always high, is that then transfers onto them. And then they become more positive. And that's why I always say, look, we've all got our problems, we've all got our issues, we've all got our demons, we've all got things that are going off at home. But we've got to make sure that when we come into the school, that we don't transfer that negative energy onto our staff or our students. And that's not always easy. No. And sometimes you need to, I always talk about having your person. You've got to have that person that picks you up. I was being quite negative. This is a true story, God's honest truth. So I literally a week ago, and it was a really proud moment. I'm going to sound really patronising and say it was like a proud father. My deputy head, one of my new deputy heads, Joe. You know Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic guy. What a guy is Joe. Like, that guy's going to make a fantastic head teacher. He's really good.
No, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're not.
But for everyone at home, go and check out the testimonial you put on Cameron Parker's website and book me now.
Yeah. So he's a great guy, right? What a lovely guy Joe is.
Unbelievable.
And I'm very transparent with my SLT, and I say to them, like, I don't want to have a culture within our SLT that we can't challenge each other. I don't want that fear of conflict. I want you to challenge me. I want you to tell me I'm wrong. I want to argue within these walls. When we go out, we're a team and we're united. And we have to make sure we back that up.
We agree on the decisions.
We agree, and we all row together in that, and then we stick together.
Even if you don't agree with it.
No.
If we agree,
we agree.
Yeah.
And I'm very open in that. And we have some really strong debates within my team, and it's a really strong SLT team. I really do have that. So I always say to them, look, if someone's being negative or something you don't like, you need to tell them. Because if you don't, it's going to transfer out there to the rest of the staff. I was a bit frustrated. This was a week ago. I was really frustrated. I just had so much to do. And I got a bit snowballed. I was like, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And a couple of things like, obviously, head teacher, you're unplanned for, have come forward. And I was having a bit of a whinge in the morning with my deputies. And I was just moaning and whinging. And then we had an SRT, and I was being a bit of a moaner and a whinger again. And that's not normally like me. I was a bit tired and yeah, it got the better of me in that moment. Nothing major.
No, it's fine. No, but
he pulled me into
honest.
the room. He pulled me into the room. He says, can I just stop you right there? He says, you're being negative and it's transferring to everyone else. Take a minute, but we need positive Dave back.
Wow. Joe is ready.
He went out the room, walked out, didn't say anything else. And I stood there and what do you think my reaction was?
You just took on board.
I had a smile from here to here.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is what I've been teaching or I've been trying to lead by. And they've done it. And it was a real proud moment. And we give a star of the week each week. He got the star of my week that week. And I said that to all staff. We need to be brave enough to be able to have those conversations. I don't care about titles. I'm not interested that I'm the head teacher. If I'm not acting appropriately or I'm bringing the mood down, tell me. I need to sort it out. Let me have a reality check and put me in my place.
Reset.
It's okay. Let me have a reset. And then I came out and I was bouncing around again, and I was like, thank you for that. I needed that. I needed someone to have that conversation with. And I don't think we do that enough. I think what we do is we get sucked in, and then it becomes a negative department, and then you go, that department's great, but that department's really negative, and this person's a real big mood hoover. Well, why?
But it's interesting that you say that, because if your response, what could have your response been to Job?
Yeah, my response could have been like, and I've had head teachers like this who will bite back, who will be negative.
Like what? So listen, David, mate, like, you're being negative, like everyone can feel it, you're bringing the mood down.
Yeah, well, of course I'm being negative. I'm a head teacher. I've got the weight on my shoulders. I've got to deal with HR. I've got to deal with these complaints. I've got to deal with the budget that now we've got to put through. I've got rise coming through. I've got 7 members of staff off sick. That's not true. I'm just making up. Of course I'm stressed. Like, but I don't need you coming to tell me about what I'm feeling.
I was just no worries.
And then they walk out. Now they're in a bad mood.
And they're never going to do that again.
And it's wrong. And it happens so often. We have this fear factor of the head teacher. Look, I believe in authority. I really, really do. And I believe in hierarchy, believe it or not. I really do. Like, people are paid the money to lead. But I'm also believe that I'm not naive enough or stupid enough to say that on my SRT team that I'm the best at everything on that team. I'm not. I am not better than Joe.
Are you the best table tennis
what he
player?
does. Yeah, I'm definitely the best table tennis player, 100%. I am the best table tennis, but I'm not. Like, I've got so many. My deputies are all better than me in their areas of what they do, and that's why they are my deputies, and that's why my SLT and my SLT.
What do they say? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room, exactly. And I'm most certainly not the smartest person in the room. But what I like to think I'm good at is putting everyone together and making sure we all link and knowing where those gaps are. Like, we say this all the time. I say this all the time. Is the best person for the job is not always the best person for the job. I don't need a maverick. I don't need someone who's going to come in and tell us this, this, and this. I need someone who's going to fill a gap in. You can have 2 of the best people you've ever worked with who both do behaviour. I don't need that. I need someone who's going to look at data. I need someone who's going to be great at inclusion, great at send, and know how we're going to change that narrative for our most disadvantaged children, our children with the most needs. They're the pockets that you've got to fill. It's not just, you can't have a team full of 11 messes. It'll be great, but you need a Van Dijk.
Tried it in Paris, didn't they?
Yeah, tried it in Paris. And did they win the Champions League?
No.
They didn't. You've got to make sure you understand where your pogs are. And don't be afraid to move people around. Don't be afraid to have those conversations and go, look, I don't think that's your area. Maybe we need to look at this and move that around and make sure you get the best version of what you are trying to achieve. And that for me is the exciting part about the job. That's the exciting part, is building that culture, building that team, and getting people motivated and saying, right, come on, we can do this.
So many things I want to touch on. It's not my idea. It's probably one of the books I've read, you know. But what you said about the Hoover, but like words that I use is you can either be like an organization assassin or an architect.
Yeah.
You can either build everything up or you can try and chop it down.
Yeah.
And even when I do staff sessions, you can sometimes see, or even when the head teacher stands up, like, the head teacher don't have the room.
Yeah.
The head teacher don't, and you can see the head teacher might be talking and they're like this, and like
it's never going to work.
And you can see it. And one thing you said about the Godfather. What's your favorite Godfather one, by the way?
I'm gonna go 2.
All right. I'm more of a Scarface man, me.
But yeah, Scarface is class. Yeah. Casino's good as well.
Yeah. But
with over 3 decades of experience, we specialise in supporting young people with special educational needs, attendance issues, and students at risk of exclusion, as well as elite athletes, performers, and families who travel and need continuity in their learning. We combine in-person mentoring and virtual learning with small class sizes, subject specialist teachers, strong pastoral care, and rigorous safeguarding to ensure NISI students feel safe, supported, and ready to learn. Visit nisi.com to learn more.
One thing you said about it's not personal, it's business.
Yeah.
We had Tom Hagen. I don't know if you know who Tom Hagen is. A great leader, unbelievable guy, really calm, really collective, kind of different to us, different approaches, but really effective, right? And what he says is, I'm paid to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm just paid to be honest.
Agreed. But there's a way to be honest.
Yeah, right? Of course.
And this is also a skill, because I've worked with I've worked with hundreds of people, and I've met some of the most honest people, but they do it in a way that's rude, or disrespectful.
But sometimes
and you're not getting people on board.
Yeah.
There is a skill to it. Sometimes you have to be blunt. Sometimes you have to just say it how it is.
But like some people take like pride and they want that to be their brand. I'm real, I'm open, I'm honest. But actually that's not being open, that's not being honest.
No.
Yes, you might say something, but like...
And how's that building a culture? You're building a culture that everyone's scared and everyone's stepping on eggshells.
You're just an ass.
Yeah, and that's what it is. No, I'm so glad you said that, because that is literally what it is. And what I, again, this is my opinion, is education, you'd be quite shocked, and I think it's changing. I think it's definitely changed in the last 20 years, is how many egos are in education. And I don't know, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure this out. And I've done a lot of time thinking about this, and I've come up with a reason as why that is. And I think the reason is because the pool is diluted so much. There's such a shortage. So if you're a great maths teacher, if you're a great science teacher, if you're a great English teacher, you're basically going to fast track yourself, if you want to, up that ranks a lot quicker than you would have 20 years ago, because it's such a shortage. And what that then happens, and what you create sometimes in school, is everyone wants to climb the ladder really quick, and everyone wants to get to the next step, and everyone's focusing about themselves rather than the journey, rather than the vision. And that's something I'm really strong at our school is, look, my job is to grow you all. My job is to lead by example. My job is to make sure that we all understand the vision and we go forward. But what we don't need to do is step on each other on the way. We don't need to throw each other under the bus. We don't need to sit there and shout the loudest because we want to get recognised the most. Like the person who's going to get recognised the most by me is the people that come up every day and do their job. And they do their job well. And when we talked about, we touched earlier about
Bill Belichick. Do you know Bill Belichick? The coach of the New England Patriots back in the day with the Tom Brady era.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He just got a saying, just do your job.
Just do your job.
Do your effing job.
But yeah. So we used to say that in my old school. We used to have JFDI. So just effing do it. Like, just do your job, and that's what you need to do. But the problem is for so often now is, you touched on it earlier, and you made the point of going, how do you get those staff to do that extra, that boom? Look, that's great, and that's fantastic. But actually, you'd be really shocked if you actually just came in and done your job. Now, I'm talking about the fundamentals, the foundation, and done it well. Then you're already a great teacher. If you come in and your lessons are planned, your books are marked, you're doing the fundamentals of the school, so you're making sure the expectations are high, you're making sure that you're adapting your lessons, you're making sure that you're on your V position, you're making sure that you're doing your retrieval, you're doing your flying starts, you're making sure that you take an interest in those childs. I call it finding your way in to relate to that child, to get them on side. If you do that, and you don't have to stay 2-3 hours over every night, and then you leave every day at 4 o'clock, if you had a school full of those, you've got a fantastic school. But you'd be surprised of how hard getting that is in a school. And you really would be, because not every school has that. And that to me is just, so when you talk about how do you get the more, I don't want the more. What I want is, first, I want the foundations, I want the basics, I want this. And then we'll build up. But so often we go to this. I need all the glim and the glam, and I need all these sprinkles. No, you don't. You need the foundations. And you need to build those foundations, and you need to make them solid, and then don't move on. I talk about waves all the time. Everything I talk about is in waves. You've got to make sure that you're realistic when you're building a school, when you're building a culture, that you do it in waves. You can't just go in and go, right, I'm going straight to this, or I'm going straight to the top. You have to build it in each one.
So I've seen firsthand your approach, everything you're talking about, and I agree with what you're saying. And the reason why you're here today is not just because I liked you, because we've built a relationship recently, I would say, more than anything. And I invited you on the podcast before we had that relationship, right? But you're here today because of Job. Because he came to me after one of my sessions and said, mate, you need to get David on the podcast. He said that behind your back, right?
Did it?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, I know you didn't know that, right? So he said that behind your back, right? And I was like, why? I just don't get anyone on the podcast, man. I don't care if he's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And he's like, mate, he's got one of his stories interesting. Everything he does is interesting. Like, get him on the podcast. You won't regret it. So, that's why you're here today. And then, of course, then when he said that as well, the next couple of times I was in school, I watch everything. I might go in there, I might wear jogging bottoms, or, you know, I'm who I am. And I'm going to talk a bit about culture after, actually, and education as a whole. But, I watch everything. Yeah. Everything. Even the locking of the toilets after, who, when I go and say, walk into, I think it was the English office and say, can somebody just let me in the toilet for And sometimes you go to schools, what do you think? Yeah, okay. and let me know when you finished. Your school, go in, hide, like nobody really knows who I am. They think I could be anyone. And they're like, yeah, no worries, just here's my key, go do your thing, make sure you lock it because we don't, what the kids in there after. But just bring the key back.
That's culture.
That's culture, right?
And that's culture.
But you said there's two things people leave education. One is leadership. We've kind of touched on it. Actually, before we move on, not everyone's going to like your approach.
No, and that's where I said it to you before when we talked about.
What would you say if you did like a whole 360 evaluation? Not people in your school now, or maybe people in your school, people who worked with. What would you say there are some of the negatives to your current position, your current David? What would be some of those negatives? What are some of the things that you need to personally work on?
Yeah, I think one of the ones. I think that's a really good question because
it's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. What I feel is what will happen sometimes is people will say they will turn around and go, but not one glove fits all. And you have these expectations, or you have these standards, or you have these foundations, and you expect everyone to follow it.
Extra large glove fits all.
Yeah, extra large gloves.
Not
totally agree. Yeah, an extra large. You know what? I'm going to use that one. I'm going to get a massive glove now. Put it at the front of the school.
I posted last night actually at the staff session. I said, guys, what's the biggest room in the world? Do you know what the biggest room in the world is?
Go on.
I'll go have a think, mate.
I would think the biggest room in the world.
Don't be lazy. Come on. Biggest room in the world. I love this one, mate. Ready? The room for improvement.
I love that. Do you know what? I love that.
Samuel loves it as well.
I'm also going to nick that one as well. The worst thing is, can you delete that one out of the podcast? Because I'm going to use that as my own and pass it on. Can we just redo that and I'm going to use that one? No. So I agree. It's the one glove fits all, and we do it so often, and that's what everyone. That's the perception. I think it happens sometimes. Is they turn around and go, "But you're expecting every kid to be the same." I'm like, no, I'm not, because I'll make reasonable adjustments, but I'm not going to make excuses. There's a huge difference. You are never going to convince me, and maybe this is a fault of mine, and I accept this, but you are never going to convince me that children can't line up, or children can't have equipment, or children can't wear a blazer, or children can't have respect and manners. You are not going to convince me of that. You're not. And you can keep telling me all the things that you want, and you can keep...
low standards, expectations.
You can keep telling me rationales and reasons why, but I'm sorry, you're making excuses.
They're the controllables.
They're the controllables. They're the things you can control.
I have dyslexia, right?
Yeah.
ADHD, right? You just literally see my wife come in. I had the medication literally before the podcast, right? My processing skills is never going to be at the pace of somebody who may not have what I have. I've accepted it. Yes, there's some strengths, some weaknesses, whatever. It's not superpower. Don't believe in that. But I struggle, right? That's not controllable. Yeah. It's still, what is controllable? I can still read, right? My reading ability in the last 15 years has gone through, it's so much better, right? But my processing is still off. I still struggle. There's some words will still catch me out. Yeah. However, I can still line up. I can still do things. And that's what I mean by control the controllables.
Yeah, so I give an example is, I didn't allow a child to go to the prom one year, because I always say this: the prom and leavers.
Horrible man.
Yeah, how dare I?
Yeah.
Because I always say they're a privilege. They are a privilege to go. Like, if you're going to go to the prom at the end of the year, and we obviously, like most schools, and no, I don't think we're different to most schools. I really don't. I think all schools are the same. If I'm being really honest, the difference is how much you stick to what you say you do.
You sound like Catherine, mate, the strictest head teacher.
I like Catherine. I don't think I'm the same as Catherine.
No.
And that's not an insult on Catherine. I think she's fantastic. I think she's a master of what she does. But I do like her. And I think you can't knock what she's done.
So that was our question, right? So our question to her was, why are you the strictest head teacher? And she's like, we're not even like, it's like, we just stick to what our rules are. And we implement it. And everyone implements it. And that's
Is that what she said?
Yeah.
So it's really
you not even watched it?
Yeah,
have you even watched any episodes, mate?
Yeah, I have watched them. But
he hasn't, has he?
I have.
Dave, he hasn't, has he, mate?
What I would say is this, and I think they're really wise words, and I really do like Catherine, to be fair. Is what I would say is this: is every time we do a Rise event, or we have lots of different schools that will come to our academy. They all want to know
what is Rise.
So Rise is, we do work with the DFE for attendance and behaviour. We're a Rise hub, so we show our exceptional work, and then we share good practice, so they can try to take things. But what really frustrates me, and it is frustrating, so anyone who's listening, please don't do this in the future, is you come in and you go, how'd you do it? That's the one question. How'd you do it? What's the and I'll go, guys, there's no how do you do it, otherwise everyone would do it. It's like saying to Messi, how do you get that ball and take the other team on and put it in the back of the net? There's not an answer for it.
Are you a Messi fan, by the way?
He's definitely,
Ronaldo?
Definitely Messi or Ronaldo. He's the greatest player of all time, right?
Yeah.
No? Ronaldo?
Beckham, mate.
Do you know what? Right, I want you to hold that thought on Beckham because I've got a really interesting story about Beckham.
Oh, go on,
it's really interesting. So the problem is every
this is going left, and I love it.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
This is what it is. But everyone has the same policies. They do. I don't understand it. And I say to the school, does your policy say that everyone has to wear a uniform? Yes. Does your policy say you can't have chewing gum? Yes. Does your policy say that children are allowed to be rude and disrespectful to staff? No. Does it say that they cannot turn lessons and just walk around the building? No. Does it say they can be late to school? No. So your policy is the exact same as mine? Yeah. Okay. Do you stick by it? And are you willing to go to the nth degree? And are you willing to be on the front of the papers for children wearing fake eyelashes because you're not going to let me in lesson? And they go, no. I say, well, that's where the difference is then, because I am. And I'm willing. I'm willing to say that is our boundaries. And don't get me wrong, I want to make this clear. I will make my reasonable adjustments where I need to.
Seen it.
And I will. And I have a huge support system. And I would say, and we've just obviously, as you know, we've just got exceptional from...
we're going to get to that.
I'll chuck that in. I've just got that. But that was because of the support we put in for children. It's not because we have high expectations or we're strict, as people would say. It's because of the support we put in. What people don't see that. They just want to go, you make the kids line up and you make sure they have to wear blazers and you make sure their top buttons are up and you make sure they have to wear ties and you won't let them wear trainers. I'm like, yeah, you're damn right I do. Because I have high expectations for my children. I'm not lowering the bar for them. They don't do it at the private school and then I'm not going to do it at my school. I know I'm flittering, but it's really important that you hear the story.
Sometimes they do that at private school, mate.
No,
sometimes
here's an interesting part. On Wednesday, I went to a private school, right? And it's interesting, on the Tuesday, we had the heat wave, right? And I refuse to read things online. I don't look at what people put online about me. I just don't. I've got
yes, you do.
I genuinely don't.
I
don't. It's a rule. If you ask any of my SRT, you ask them, I say, I don't want to know, don't bring it to the table. Because what happens is negativity, it will bother you. You say it doesn't, and everyone says you're thick-skinned. It does. When you're hearing personal things, or people saying you're this or that, when you know you give 14 hours a day, you give your heart and soul to it, I don't want to know. I can't please everyone, so I just don't want to know.
But does that feedback sometimes, though, still...
Have a meeting. Come and see me. Come and have a conversation.
Okay.
I'm up for any parent comes have a conversation. I speak to, and I say it all the time. If you want to discuss something or you don't agree, come and have a conversation with me. It's fine. We can have that discussion.
Yeah.
We don't need to plaster it all over social media because I'm not going to get into a social media war. I'm going to put my opinion back because I obviously can't do that.
Imagine if you did.
Imagine if I did.
A rap song back to somebody's mum.
Of course, exactly. And that's why we can't do it, obviously.
And that's why I'm not a head teacher.
And exactly. And that's why I've got to be careful, otherwise I won't be a head teacher.
Listen here, Jenny.
NISI brings the classroom to you, delivering high-quality live education for learners who need a different approach, whether fully remote or through our hybrid zones within schools, providing accredited teacher-led sessions no matter where you are. As a DFE Section 41 approved provider, NISI is trusted by schools and local authorities to support learners nationwide. Visit nisi.com to learn more.
So, we've been talking about Catherine's philosophy, like executing on rules, behaviour.
Oh, sorry, that was it. Yeah, so I went to a private school, and so on the Tuesday how dare I do this? I then said, yes, there's a heat wave. Children can take the blazers off. I sent all the comms home. You don't have to wear a tie. Top button can be undone, but girls can still wear the skirts. Boys need to wear the trousers and shirts. You don't have to even have a tuck in. I want one favour. You don't have to tuck your shirts in. There was uproar. And I had literally staff come up to me, oh my God, David, social media's blowing up. Everyone's going mad. They're on about taking the kids out of school because you're not letting them wear non-uniform. And I was like, I'm not allowing children to wear non-uniform because if I say wear PE kit, I'll have the battle the next day like we had last year where children would turn up, not in PE kit, and I don't want to have that battle. And I don't think a pair of trousers, thin trousers, are going to make much of a difference in a school like ours where it's one building and it's got a great airflow. So I said, I'm not doing it. And I refused to then lower my standards for that. Now, here's the interesting part.
But you made reasonable adjustments.
I made reasonable adjustments, huge reasonable adjustments, okay? Reasonable adjustments where I don't think it was going to make much difference. And if I said we're non-uniform, I guarantee you, kids would have come in with tracksuit bottoms.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Two tracksuit bottoms.
100%, right? So I went to the private school the next day, on the Wednesday, on the heat wave. Now, tell me what you think every single one of those children were wearing.
2 jogging bottoms?
Yeah. No, every single one was wearing trousers, shirt, untucked, no tie on, top button undone, no blazer. So why am I lowering my bar and my standards? Because they pay £30,000 a year to go to that school, so they have high standards than my kids. I don't think so. And that's the difference of what they don't understand and people don't understand is we lower the bar way too often and we make excuses when we don't need to make excuses.
So I'll tell you a story, obviously with my background, similar to you. Every year we go to Switzerland. I talk in Switzerland, right? And these students, their parents pay for them to be there. So it's a camp, 2-week camp. They pay, send their kids to Switzerland. Yeah. Light work, no money at all. Flights, everything. The camp's expensive, but what an experience. And I run 2 sessions, one morning, next 3 hours each on leadership, etc., etc. The first time I ever went, I was having literally on the plane. I do this all the time. I've done a few private schools. I even talked to Cambridge at one point. But I was thinking, why are they going to listen to me? Like, these kids are from Abu Dhabi, they're from America, they're from all these, some of their parents are like top politicians and sports stars. And why are they going to listen to me? Like, this is, kid from the street kind of thing.
Yeah.
And delivered the first 3-hour session. Oh, mate. Notes. Asking questions, lining up to take pictures. Thank you, sir, for coming. We really appreciate it. I'm there thinking, why are they going to listen? My nan was a cleaner. She pretty much raised me.
But you know why they listen to you?
But like for me, it was like, but what people then think from, say, disadvantaged backgrounds, they've already made it, so they're not going to work hard. They're already privileged. But actually, it's that environment. Yeah. Once again, with leadership, culture of the school, they're in an environment where excellence is the only option. Yes, there are a few issues. Don't have a great relationship with their mum or their dad because they don't see them and are raised by a nanny and whatever. So there's other issues going on. Yeah. But as far as like, that's what you're competing with. They're already up. They're already millionaires on paper.
But what have you just said? You just says, and I like that, excellence is the only option.
Yeah, it's habit, it's routine.
What's our school ethos? Which I changed a year and a half ago. When I took over Head, I changed the ethos.
I want to say always winning.
Success is the only option.
Success is the only option.
That's my ethos. And that's what I tell my children all the time. Success is the only option.
Yeah.
We're here to succeed.
I do like the always winning bit, though.
Yeah, I like always winning as well. But what I say is this is, what we do so often in schools is we don't realise what success is. And we don't realise how we need to get there. And we don't realise the potential that they've got. So you've got to install that into the mind. You've got to say that all the time. But the reason why, just going back to what you just said, the reason why people listen to you and the reason why people like you is because you're telling the truth. You're not telling people from a privileged background who's been given everything. You're telling them a real story. You're telling them real...
But this is where I want people not to listen and be like, oh, well, I'm not from that background, so then I guess I can't do it. I just think whatever your truth is, I think kids will relate to something.
100%.
Right, so even if you're not from, even if you tell the kids, listen, I don't know what it's like. What you go home to. My mum and dad had a lot of money. They had great jobs. Like, I've never struggled for money, so I will never fully understand what it's like. But I'm still here to support you. Yeah. And I'm here to back you. The kids would be like, Mrs. The one.
But the reason why that's really important, especially when you're looking at, and I'm genuinely making this up right now. I've never thought about this. But when you think about success and you talk about so when you talk about success and you talk about these people who are far more privileged and they've been given silver spoons or whatever you want to call it, and they go on and be successful.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault. Yeah. And look, I want my children to have that. Exactly. You're damn right I give my children everything.
I'll never be middle class, even though you see my house. Yeah. But like...
You are definitely middle class,
No, but on paper, yes. But like, I will still feel insecure about many things.
Of course.
When we get like a Domino's and like a 50-year-old would drop off the food, I feel guilty.
But that's because
I feel guilty. Like I think he must think I'm a knob. Yeah. But at the same time, yes, my kids are going to grow up different and have different perspective, but that's also not. There's no wrong or right. It's being honest.
100%.
And that's what we just need to like even teach the teachers, and like even if you don't need to be from their background. If you are, that's great. Yeah, sometimes that can also be an issue. Like, you're not trying to be their friend.
But if you're not from that background, we talk about being privileged, having that silver spoon. You need to have people like yourself telling them about the reality and the truths of what life is like. Because if you own a business, who's working in your factories? Who's delivering your parcels? And if you want a successful business, what do you need to do to make that successful? You need to look after your staff. You need to be able to be relatable. You need to be able to have empathy. You need to be able to understand of what they're going through and understand the struggles that they have to go through. That's all part of being successful. So it's important that don't ever undervalue the importance of what your story does, because that's all part of being successful.
And I said that to a young kid in Birmingham, actually, and he was knife crime involved. The school knew, really tough school. It was like a SEMH school. Lovely kid, into a bit of rapping. And I said, listen, like, have you done anything yet? And he's like, no, but like everyone around, things happen. So he's a target, he's vulnerable, right? I said, listen, do you feel pressure to? And he's like, of course. Like, he was open. I built a relationship with him. I said, imagine this school, right? Close your eyes right now. I said, imagine this first. And because I know this from experience with my friends. I said, you go out tonight, you do something tonight, you regret because you're a lovely lad. The environment, everything, it gets carried away. It's out of your hands. Even your boy does something next to you and you're like, you didn't do it, but you're there, right? I said, and you go home that night thinking, shit, like you talk to your friends, whatever, you go and wash your clothes, you do everything like, okay, like we probably won't get caught, nobody's seen, right? All the adrenaline's run off. And I said, you're there sleeping, right? Your mum's downstairs, you know your mum's situation, siblings are asleep, you're the oldest brother. And I said, you've finally gone to sleep, right? And 3-4 o'clock, boom! Please, get out, get down, get down. Your mum's crying, your siblings are crying, the gun's in your face, you're locked up, they took you in, they chuck you in the cell. You're found guilty for being there, murder, attempted murder, whatever. You got 10 years. So this school, I said, is it a good school? Do you like the building? Yeah, it's nice, right? I said, imagine this school. This is the best prison you could probably ever go to if this was a prison, right? Amazing. He's like, yeah, it's a nice place, good, it's great. I said, now imagine being in this place for the next 10 years. Every day, can't even go out. I said, how would that make you feel? And he's crying. He said, I've never thought of it like that. I said, now your mum rings you. Son, I've got cancer. 6 months to live. How'd you feel?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, 100%.
And he was there crying, can't be there for your siblings, all of this stuff, man. And he was there crying, I was crying, as you can see, like, and I just felt it. And he's doing all right. I can't tell you whether he's still, you know, he messaged me a few times on Instagram with his new rap song and stuff, so he's staying out of trouble. But as far as I'm concerned, but as we know, environments sometimes can be very powerful.
But what you don't realise there, and you know what, I love that story, dude. And you know what, like what I'd say
it's just perspective, right?
It's perspective.
Just like when you just don't understand the impact it has on everybody, and all of a sudden a controllable future is.
But you're a teacher, and you don't realise that you are a teacher, because that's what a teacher's job is. A teacher's job is to change that narrative as best that we can.
But maybe it was unprofessional. Like, I cried a little bit with him.
How is that unprofessional?
I don't know.
Is that you're showing that
some might.
No. I cry all the time in front of my staff. They will laugh when they see it, because I do. And I've been told, oh, you're quite emotional, aren't you? Because I put on this thick exterior.
But why is that a bad thing? Right?
No, it's not a bad thing. It's because we care, and because we're invested, and because without you even knowing now, like you said, you don't know what he's doing now. You think he's doing okay.
Yeah.
But you might be the difference between him doing 10 years in prison and not. And it's interesting you say that, because I've actually got a story like that actually happened. Like I was present at, well, not present, but I understood it. So I don't know if you're aware, in Nottingham there was a shooting that happened, and a young girl, 14-year-old girl, got killed. It was near the fair, and the guy.
When was this?
So this was probably 25 years ago.
Wow.
26 years ago. I'm 43. So what happened was a shooting, and one of them, a lad called Junior, was my on and off boyfriend of my sister's. I wasn't a fan of Junior. He was a bad boy in the area.
He's going to have your sister for a start.
Yeah. And of course, it's never a good start, is it? And the other one was Mark Kelly. Someone I went to school with, lived about 8 doors down from me, grew up with him, really nice guy. I liked him. Like I said before, very gang affiliated area. And it was easy to get involved in things that obviously you get drawn into, and that's why I can relate to these things so easy when we talk about gang affiliation, and we can talk about exploitation, etc. God's honest true story. What happened on an evening is Junior, my sister's on and off boyfriend, had this absolute crazy obsession with being a gangster.
Yeah,
had all the tattoos, all the postcodes, all over him and everything else. And the other boy didn't. But you could tell he was just within in the wrong crowd, and he was part of that culture. But he was actually a decent kid. He really was. And he was going down, and they went to my other sister actually ran a pub in the area, and a lot of people would hang around in that pub. So they were actually in that pub, And my sister was actually going out into town. My other sister, not the boy, the girlfriend of the one, the other sister. So she was like, "Oh, I'm going to town," and he was like, "Do you want a lift?" And she got, I believe, she didn't get in the car because she was already getting a lift off someone else. She's like, "No, I'm all right. I'm not going." He got into that car, and Mark was driving his mum's car, a gold car. Everyone knew it in the area. It's not the biggest of areas, but it was a gold car. It really stood out. Mark was driving, and Junior was in the passenger seat, and they drove around to the neighbourhood that was not too far from ours, and that was where the big rivalry was. There's been a couple of unfortunate deaths between the gang affiliation between the two. So we were from the Meadows, and that was St Anne's, and he went down, drove to that area, and in my opinion, and I could be wrong, and I'm not trying to get into politics here, I don't know. Junior pulled out a gun and he fired it into a crowd, and it ricocheted off a lamppost, and it hit the 14-year-old girl, and he died. They both went to court, and again, I've known Mark my whole life. They both went to court, and they both pleaded not guilty. They both got 36 years without parole. Mark was 19 years old, 20 years old, his whole life. And I'd grown up with that guy. Like, we went to school together. Like, and I just sit there and I can't help but think, look, regardless of anything, a 14-year-old girl has lost their life. What an absolute travesty. And like, they deserve what they've got. I'm not disputing that. But I just look at that path that boy chose. And I know that so many of my friends were around that. And I just think, you in that moment made that decision, got into that car with a person who was obsessed with trying to be someone that he wanted to be and get his name out there. And now you are spending 36 years of your life. A young girl has lost her life because of this crazy world that we live in, where we're trying to be something that we're not. And relating that to my school this is where I think people get me confused in schools, because I openly have those conversations and I say to them, stop trying to be something that you're not. Stop wearing your trousers off and around your ankles. Stop going around with the bad boys of the area because it makes you feel great and it makes you feel good, and the girls are interested because they're interested in bad boys. Because that road does not lead you to where you need to be. And it only takes you to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing, where someone's having a fight and someone pulls out a knife, you get stopped, and you're affiliated or you're guilty by association, and next thing you're doing 10, 15 years in prison, your whole life's took a change. I'm like, you have to understand where you put yourself and what kind of circumstances you put yourself in. And I have these conversations all the time.
Easy said than done, though, isn't it?
It's so easy said than done. And that's why it's important to have people like you. And I'm genuinely giving you credit.
But I think this is what pisses me off, though. Yes, there's lived experience, but I back a lot of what we do with data, research, but also it's never, when I first deliver a session, first 15 minutes is kind of about me in a way. Obviously, it has to be, it's a story, all of that stuff. But I'm good at putting a mirror in front of people. And that's why I feel like I can go to a private school and deliver a great session, but then I can go to an inner city, a secure unit and deliver a great session. I'm never trying to pretend somebody I'm not. But there are lived experience speakers who piss me off, because I feel like they're doing it for their own ego, and they glorify. And as head teachers, you've got to be very careful who you bring in, because they're somewhat glorifying. They're somewhat glorifying that lifestyle, and what I mean is, like, they'd be like, so like, I'll be in the car and we had 20 grand in the back. The police was chasing us, but then listen, my friend got this and I got this and I went here. But don't listen to that part of the story. What's the important part is the car, and all they're thinking about is the 20 grand in the car.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more, and I've said this all the time about are you being a role model there in how you're addressing those children? And I've made that mistake, believe it or not.
Yeah, I have.
I've made that mistake of when I first went into education. I remember I was an assistant head a year, many, many years ago at a school, and I had a friend who, he's Polish, a lad called Jarek, and he came over here to better himself because he'd just come out of prison, and he was. I'm stereotyping. Yeah. He was what you would expect someone who's probably just come out of prison. Yeah. He's built like a brick, rough as oat. He's got scars down here, scars over his back, skinhead.
Now we are
he's got the whole shebang, covered in tattoos. Yeah. And I met him at TNT because he came, got a job on the agency, and then we got on literally his first day. We connected straight away. And we ended up being gym partners, and we ended up going to the gym, and he ended up moving then to be next to me, and we just become a real friendship. And I go to Poland now every year to see him. And he came here to sort himself out. But he would tell me the stories of when he was as wild as they come. Like he drove a car through a nightclub because he had an altercation with a bouncer, and he got imprisoned. And there's things that he would tell me was shocking, and he had the scars to prove it. And I thought, I'm going to take him into school when I was assistant head of year, and I'm going to get him to speak to the children, my most vulnerable children, to understand about how he then had to come to England to turn his life around, and how he had to then change, and how that was a load of rubbish, and he wanted to be a bad boy, and he wanted to be the toughest, and he wanted to have that lifestyle. And he ended up in jail, where what you just said earlier is exactly what happened. His girlfriend at the time was pregnant, missed the birth of his child, came out, he's got a baby, didn't know what to do, and he's like, I just need to move away, and I need to sort myself out. He turned to religion as well. Now, the interesting part of all this is when he told that story, it had the complete opposite effect on those children. Because all they were obsessed with was, he was huge, and he's got a tight t-shirt on. And they was like, oh my God, so when you drove in, did you get out? Did you beat them up? Did you hit this person? Oh, how many fights have you had? Oh, so when you're boxing, what did you do on this? And I was just like, guys, I had to stop and go, guys, you're missing the point. The purpose of this story, and maybe he didn't articulate well enough, because that's not his job. He was just, I thought this was going to go different. And I realised what I'd done is actually told people a story, and that wasn't changing their narrative. It was actually going into, I now want to be a bad boy. But what do we do on Netflix?
Yeah.
What do we do on Netflix? What's the best-selling things on Netflix?
Yeah.
Mass murderers. And they're the ones that everyone talks about. People with Ted Bundy.
K-pop, mate.
K-pop. That's a good one, right?
That's a great one.
But this is what we do, and we have to be careful, and I agree with you, we have to be careful of how we articulate and how we put that message across, because it can quite easily have an adverse effect. And how many children do you see in schools now, and you must see this all the time, is where I see a child behave and act a certain way, and you know they're involved or they're being exploited, and then you meet the parents and you go, hold on a minute, this doesn't make sense. Like, you've got a nice mum and dad who both work, who are very well respected, but you've now seen this image from somewhere.
But you know what? The hardest kids for me to ever deal with, believe it or not, is in a middle class area, a group of boys who think they're bad men.
I totally agree.
And they stick them in your school.
I totally agree.
If they was in your school, they'd be the ones going to the shop.
Totally
right?
agree. 100%.
But they're not, because when their consequences at the moment is they still go home, their mum don't believe it and back them with everything they do,
100%.
and they're still going on 3 holidays a year. They got a 5-bedroom house, and all they are is literally, but they're the ones who are the most disrespectful.
Yeah.
They're the ones who don't fully understand. But then sometimes, which happened in the school in Wiltshire, one of the boys got done for murder because he went to a party. He got somebody pull it on him, panicked, stabbed him. Because he had a knife with him, because he thought that's what it was. And he wasn't, because he was there like, whoa, he panicked. And because he had that knife, he was going to get beaten up. He panicked, used it, murder.
But let's go back there. But it's interesting you say that, because this is really interesting to me, because I have to deal with this as well, believe it or not, is when we go back, and I always say, we're very quick at saying the problem. So the problem is we've got children who don't live that lifestyle, who now are obsessed and want to live a certain and portray themselves in a certain way. That happens. That's so common. I see that more now than ever. I really do. Okay, but that's not the problem. That's the end product. So where does it originate from? Well, let's go back. How are we going to resolve it? And again, I don't know the answer to that. But one of the things I've come to the conclusion is, who are their role models? Who are the people who are inspiring them? Who are the people that they're looking up to behave and walk and talk and act this way? Like, who are the people that are boasting about stabbing, shooting, killing? And they're the people that they listen to when we talk about women in a derogative way. And these are the people that we might listen to, and they might then not just see that as art, but they now want to act a certain way. And listen, don't get me wrong, I love rap music. Yeah. I listen to rap my whole life. I'm just trying to look at, when we talk about role models...
You've definitely got a few bars, haven't you?
Do what?
You got a few bars, a few lyrics.
Do you know what? I never did.
I feel like you're the type of be in your car, just freestyling.
No, I definitely love being in the car with the music blasting out. And
who's your favourite music artist
of all time?
Doesn't even have to be rap.
So I'm huge on rap. So Nas was definitely one of my favourite.
I can be who I want to be.
Yeah. So Nas, I love DMX.
I put that on the other day in a school in Manchester, near Moss Side, right? And a kid goes, "That song's lame, sir."
Yeah. To be fair.
When you think about it, it's like, yeah.
Well, here's one.
Because I was more DMX at that time.
Yeah. So DMX was definitely. So DMX is one I listen to probably more than Nas now, because it's just...
You can't really say DMX because his lyrics and... Yeah. You know what I mean?
But here's again, controversial. And again, I don't want to be a hypocrite here. Nah. I grew up 50 Cent, Eminem. These are the people... B.I.G. These are the people... Tupac to a certain degree. I was definitely more B.I.G. Yeah. These are the people that I grew up with, and these were definitely the music and the genre that I listened to growing up, and that was... something that I still listen to now, and I can't lie and say I don't. But I'm not naive enough to know that some children can listen to. I don't listen to drill music. I don't like it. But some people can listen to drill music, and I know they can then start behaving a certain way or talking.
But I love motorbikes and bikes back in the day. So DMX, Rough Riders, all of that was me. But it had an influence, and it does.
Yeah, it does.
Because then you look for the influence. But nowadays as well, it's on the algorithm. It's everything. So it never leaves them, and it's easy. What's that saying? F around and find out. And sometimes that finding out can be death. Sometimes that finding out can be, and if you act a certain way at some point, people like we may have grown up with, you see people will get hurt.
Of course.
And sometimes the loudest get hurt, the ones who think they're get hurt. And,
but it becomes the norm, doesn't it? And it's like what you said is, I would make a really strong prediction now and say that more than 50% of the people who get stabbed don't want to be in that situation. They just find themselves in that situation. And there's a huge difference. There's a difference between going out with a knife of intention, and there's a difference between going out with a knife that's in your pocket because you're trying to fit in. The amount of times over my years at school, and it's not massive amount, but the amount of children that I've had to remove from school because they brought a knife into school in previous schools, where and these are some of the loveliest kids in the world, and then you see it on their faces, and there was one kid many years ago who brought a knife into school, and he literally got it out in school as a kitchen knife, and he just showed everyone, look what I've got, look what I've got, look what I've got, put it in his pocket, get around, look what I've got, look what I've got. It was a child with additional needs, because he thought it was going to fit in. He thought it was cool. He thought this is what people wanted to see, and it was genuinely really heartbreaking. Like, it actually upset me. Like, I remember having a meeting with his parents, and his parents were disabled. And they came in, and it was genuinely like, we talk about being emotional. I was genuinely like heartbroken, really much. He was a lovely kid, and he's just made this mistake, and he's coming and he said the wrong things. He then says that I've done it for protection, which shows intent, and I just knew that wasn't true, and I was trying to but he's brought a knife into school. And luckily we found, we did some work with him, we did some work with the police, and we did everything that we needed to do, and we got him into another school. So it didn't end up ruining his life. And he left the school. I still checked in on him, and he done really well in the end. But it's just, he got involved in thinking this is what the norm was, this is what people want to see, this is how we fit in.
I do feel like our perspective is quite crucial sometimes, because we see it and we've witnessed it, and what they don't understand is, if you did something and got arrested, you're the talk for the rest of the week. Next week people talk about you a little bit less. Guess what? 10 years, forget, that's the guy who went to prison because he did this. People don't care. It's not the flexing, it's not everything that you think it's going to be. But we do need to move on, right? Quickly, behaviour. Share what you shared to me a minute ago before I cut you off and say we're going to come to that about the whole Ofsted thing. What happened? So
it's interesting because when I said at the start, when we talk about behaviour and everyone comes in and they ask you, how have you done X and Y with behaviour? And I always say to them, guys, it's you're listening to me. So when I do speeches, or when people come and see the school, or I'll go and do certain conferences, is you'll see people writing loads of stuff down, and they'll write and they write and they write, and they'll come up and they'll say to me, they always say the same thing. They always go, right, I can't wait to get back. I've got so many ideas. I'm going to do this. And I always say, don't do that. And I always put a slide up and say, don't brain dump. Please don't go back and now put it on all staff and tell them this is now what you need to do. Don't do that. Look at where your problems are. Set some waves, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 and 4. See what is your number one priority. What is it that you need to change first? What is your foundation? I said, embed that.
So for Ofsted, you got...
So we got exceptional for behaviour and attendance, which we're the first school in West Midlands, second school to get that. And when you got to remember, you got to look at the journey. It's like, you got to remember where we were 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, our school was 89% attendance. It was minus 0.7 progress rate. Our school had 26, 27 children in an alternative provision. We had over 400 suspensions a year. It was one of the worst performing schools in Birmingham. So when you look at that to then 2.5 years later get exceptional for behaviour and attendance, we're currently 96.9% attendance. Our suspension rate is reduced from over 90%. We've had no permanent exclusions. And that's what drives me mad when people go, but you're the strict. I'm like, right, guys, I've got lower suspensions than anyone else, and I've had no permanent exclusions. It doesn't make sense when you're saying I'm not just removing children from school, but what we're doing is putting support in. We're making sure that we're doing a lot more preventative work rather than reactive. What we do so often in schools is we wait for a problem to happen, And then we go, oh my God, we need to get rid of this kid. We need to put him everything now, we need to do this. And then you get that all staff email, which I say, don't ever do this. It is the one thing that I will not accept, is when we send an all staff email, can you tell me about this child? You don't need to send that email, because if we're doing our jobs correctly, our foundations, and we're logging everything and we're putting this point in place, we're going to tackle it from here, then here, and that graduated approach. So if that child is turning up late, or that child is being removed from a couple of lessons, okay, so what are you doing at this point? Don't wait till it gets to here, till we've lost the child. Get it at this point. Do the preventative work straight away. Get that there. And we talk about where do you put your chips, and there's a good book that's about where you place your bets. Where are you putting your bets? Where are you putting your chips? What we do so often is we look at schools tunnel visioned, and we look at schools and go, well, that's my team and that's my budget, and I haven't got the resources. You've got so many resources in schools. How many teachers have been doing the same job for 20 years and no one even knows what they do? Like, mix it up. Look at where your chips are and put your where your need is, and put your chips on that, put your bets on that. So if you know that your problem is behaviour, and you know your problem is we're not putting the support in, well, then that's where you need to then put your support. If you know that the system is broken, right? We know this. We know if you want to get a child in the HCP, we know that that's going to take you at least 6 months, 9 months of just all the evidence that you've got to show. You've then got to try and get the education psychologist to come in, and you're limited of how many they can see, X, Y, Z. I put my bets and brought my own education psychologist.
Wow.
So I brought my own education psychologist 2 days a week. I literally tripled, quadrupled the amount of EHCPs I had in a year. It paid for itself and gave me additional staff to support, because I'm fed up of waiting 9 months to do so. It's where are you putting your chips? Where are you putting your bets on what you need? If you've got a need, because you've got, this is what I inherited when I went to MBA. There was 240 students on an SEN register. We had 2 children, I believe, or 3 children with an EHCP in a school that is in the top 10 disadvantaged in the whole country. And what it will tell you, the more disadvantaged you are, statistics will tell you, the more children you have statistically with an EHCP or an SEN. And mine was completely opposite. When I then spoke to the LA, they said to me that they could see 2 children with their ed psych, what we pay for, a year. I got 240 on an SEN register. I was like, guys, you're failing. So then I said, right, I'm going to get my own education psychologist. Do you know what they told me? True story. I couldn't use her reports. An education psychologist that I've known for 10 years, who I've worked with for years in my previous school, who was doing me a favour to come and work for me because she knew the desperate need. And she's a great woman, Alison. She's a really lovely woman, really cares. And I was like, we're failing these children. I had to call a meeting with the LA and have a full-on discussion, debate, argument, and go, what do you mean I cannot use her reports? She's been an education psychologist for 30 years. Like, we need, just because she's not employed by you, I'm employing her. She's a doctor. I need to use the reports because we are failing children and this is not okay. And in the end, they said we could use their reports. And now we're absolutely thriving. But it's knowing where you're putting your money, where you put. So many kids shouldn't be in mainstream, but they come from, they've been permanent student from primary school, then they just get put straight back into mainstream. And they've got no EHCP and they've been failed. And I'm like, we need to do something about it. So again, I go back to where are you putting your chips? How are you setting out your waves? Where are you putting your starting point, your next point? I'll tell you another point that I do, which again is quite controversial. And I think it took a while for some of my staff at
What's
MBA.
Controversial?
What's controversial?
What about that was controversial?
What I've just said?
Yeah.
I don't think that was controversial.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if you meant that.
No.
Okay.
So there's another one that's quite controversial, which I know didn't. It definitely had mixed feelings in previous schools, which I've did it, and I did it at MBA as well. Is I believe that you can have great staff, but you can have different visions and you can work differently. And what we need to do is all be aligned, and we need to be singing from the same hymn sheet. And if me and you work together, and you're a deputy and I'm the head teacher, I can learn from you and you can learn from me. But what we need to make sure is we are 100% aligned. So when you go into that parent meeting, your meeting is the exact same as if I was doing that meeting, because that's how we're going to have consistency with consistent our approach. So in my last school, I moved my Senko, my head of behaviour and attendance all into one office. And I was in that office with them. And everyone was like, what, how are you putting them? I said, because what we do so often in schools is we have islands. We go, well, this is SEND, and this is teaching and learning, and this is behaviour, and no one talks to each other. And I'm like, explain to me how SEND and behaviour aren't one. Who are the most challenging children in your school, traditionally, stereotyping? SEND. Okay, who are the ones that statistically don't do as well when it comes to outcomes?
SEND.
So how are these not all interlinked? How are they not one? But they've got so many people got different views. So I said, we're all in one office. Because every time I have a phone call with a parent, you're all going to listen to it. And every time you discuss a child, we're all going to listen to it. And we're all going to put it together. That person now, both of those people now work for me. Again, because we brought them is when I then went to MBA, you know, Sean McGillen, unbelievable, fantastic deputy head, going to make a great head teacher, it's really good, what was the first thing I done when I moved there? I said, you're going to move into an office with me. And he was like, and he actually said to me, you're micromanaging my daughter. I said, I'm not micromanager, but we need to think the same. We need to be aligned. And I'm not saying I'm right, and I'm not saying you're right, but we need to make sure if we've got this vision, we are in line. Me and Sean are like this. The way we run behaviour, the way we run culture is like this. And then when I moved up, we then employed Andy Jones as our head of behaviour. And what did Andy Jones do? I said, you moved into office with Sean. He needs to now think like you. The same goes my other deputy head, Katie Rogers, unbelievable, fantastic. Best send that money can buy, genuinely. Like, she's just incredible. And remember that name. She's going to be big in the SEN world one day. Again, I shared the office with her. I said to her, I'm going to share an office. This is SEN, someone who knows far more than me. But why did I put her in the office? And people don't understand this. I said, the reason I'm putting her in the office because as a behaviour expert and a culture expert, I need to understand SEN more. When I'm going to those parent meetings and I'm putting my waves in place, I need to also be looking at it from a SEN point of view. But I don't know it as well as you do, and you can't be in every meeting. So if I put you in my office, we can have those meetings and you're going to be involved, you can pitch in. And now I think I know a lot about SEND and how these all embed together because I've circled myself with the right people. What I haven't done is separated people in islands. And we do that so often in schools, and it really does, where they don't communicate and they don't have conversations with each other. And that was one thing that Ofsted picked up on.
With over 3 decades of experience, we specialise in supporting young people with special educational needs, attendance issues, and students at risk of exclusion, as well as elite athletes, performers, and families who travel and need continuity in their learning. We combine in-person mentoring and virtual learning with small class sizes, subject specialist teachers, strong pastoral care, and rigorous safeguarding to ensure NISI students feel safe, supported, and ready to learn. Visit nisi.com to learn more.
But it's also kind of a society thing again. What happens to the workplace now? Everyone's working from away at home, pretty much.
Yeah, of course.
Which is it's an interesting concept. But we have to move a little bit fast because I know we've got other guests, and you've also got a pretty important day today. There's a couple of things I want to just quickly touch on. Actually, what you just said then, the environment too. I think that wraps up everything we said, even from knife crime, disadvantage, where you live, being in the same office. That environment is the culture, isn't it? And I think that
you're a product of your environment.
Exactly.
I say that all the time. The way people turn out is because of what they're used to. It's their norm. And I say this all the time is when you're going through what you're going through, a child doesn't know they're poor. They don't. I remember in COVID, we went and dropped food parcels off. I spent all day just going around dropping food parcels off in one of my previous schools. And I remember going to a block of flats and to drop a food parcel off, and the lift was broke. And we had to walk all the way up, me, and it was a head of year at the time. And we got to the top of these flats and we knocked the door, and the mum answered the door. The mum answered the door. She had some shorts on, a vest. It was red hot. She had a baby in her hand, looked about 3 months old. Her feet were discoloured. There was no carpets. You could smell the smell when it come out. And the kid came out, beautiful kid, lovely kid, and he come out. And he was like, oh, thank you so much, sir. And obviously he looked malnourished and he didn't look the healthiest. And we were putting support with him at school. When that door closed, the head of year got upset. She was a great leader. And she got really upset. And she was like, I can't believe that, like that poor kid. I said, he doesn't know. I said, that kid comes to school every day with a smile on his face. He doesn't know he's poor. He doesn't know any different. I grew up in that environment. I didn't know. You don't know you're poor when you're surrounded by that. You're not surrounded by privilege and wealth. You don't know. You're surrounded by people who are similar to yourself. He has no idea. But what we have to do is change the narrative for him and make him understand that he's more than that. We need to make him understand that just because he came from that doesn't mean he now needs to be part of that rotation where it just happens and happens again, and you just come a product of the environment. And that's our jobs.
Wow. quickly, we mentioned Catherine earlier.
Yeah.
You said before when you've done a presentation, you put a picture of her on the screen in front of teachers, and it got a bit of a rumble. We got to be quick.
I got
asked
to take it off.
You got asked to take it off, right? There's some things with Catherine. People always came to me. Actually, even somebody, what's she like? Like, tell me more. Like, so I liked her. Do I agree with everything she does? Her political views, things she tweets? No, absolutely not. However, I'm not building an echo chamber, which I think a lot of the time education does. We're not with them, or we're not on this side, we don't believe in that. But when I posted the Catherine one, I received quite a lot of messages from people I respected. Not quite a lot about Thor, but Thor's quite a lot for people right?
Yeah, of course.
And they say, Cam, I can't get on board with this one, mate. I said, I just posted it 10 minutes ago. But I said, I just posted it 10 minutes ago, you couldn't have watched it. So then what that tells me is there's a mad echo chamber. Actually,
100%.
you might watch it and actually take something away, or you might watch it and it might reinforce that you don't like what she's saying. But for some reason, to me, it feels a bit personal. What is it about?
I totally agree.
I think, what is it?
Well, ask her a question.
And I don't agree with. As
Is she a coward or is she brave?
She's brave.
She's brave, and the reason I say that is because it takes a lot of bravery to do what she's done. Because we live in a fear of speaking out and saying things because we're going to upset people, or we're going to offend someone over here, and we're afraid to speak the truth, and everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon and try and be politically correct all the time, when sometimes we need not to be.
But like, we're all like,
but what I get to, remember what I said to you at the start, you don't have to, you get to. She has created a school with her team that children go there and they leave with 2 grades above what they should have got if they went to a normal school. That is what she's created. She has created an environment that is similar to a private education. She has created that with her high expectations and her ways of what she does things. Now, you have a choice. You can go there or you don't, because that's my child. Would I send my child to Michaela? I think I would send my oldest, probably not my youngest, but I think I would send my oldest, because they're different. And it's what you want for your child. Now, she is a master of what she does. And anyone who says that she's not, I'm sorry, I think they're quite ignorant, because what you're not doing is understanding of what you might not agree with it, but she's the best at it.
You don't even have to personally like her.
You might not agree. You might not agree with how Barcelona play football, where they keep the ball for 90% of the possession and score 1 goal. You don't have to agree with it.
Don't mention Arsenal, mate.
Sorry, but they're the best at it.
London forever. Chelsea,
but this is the problem: is we're too quick to judge and say what other people are doing wrong, where we don't actually stop and have a look what they're doing. What they're doing is changing the narrative of the lives of those children. Fact. That's what they're doing. Whether you agree with it or not, if you don't want that for your child, and you don't want your child to walk around in single file and science and have high expectations and be told that they've got to read every night, fine, don't send your child to that school. Send them to another school. But if you do agree with it, send them. But I guarantee you now, and I don't know this, I bet she's full, and I bet she's got a huge waiting list. So that shows you that sometimes the negativity is not always justified.
And it happens, and we've had people on like Sir Paul Tarn, who's strictly like, he's like, education, teaching's not a hard job, stop saying it's a hard job, stop saying there's no money in education.
It's ridiculous.
But like, he's open, he's odd, like, he speaks from the heart, he says it with his chest. Does people like it? No. Do I necessarily agree with everything he says? No. But at the same time, I'm not going to hate the guy for it. No. I'm not going to have, like, I just can't get, like, for example, Dave, obviously, from Education Media, who does all these podcasts, he's done a few other podcasts with a few other people, right? And, Dave's like my best friend now. And they, say, oh, you seen what Cam's doing? They're like, yeah, but we don't really like some of the people that he gets on with. Some of them even asked those people to come on their podcast. And they said no. We're, like, the people he's getting into bed with. Hang on a minute, I'll have Catherine on, but I'll have somebody with a complete different view. I don't even agree with it. I don't know what I believe sometimes. Yeah. For me, this whole podcast is chuck ideas into a hat. Let's work it out. I might even change my opinion, right? Of course. But from my experience, when we went to Catherine, we were looked after. She was amazing. We had a big old laugh, like it was good, and I liked her. Is there any school in this country? And I feel like I'm over protecting Catherine, and I'm not. Like I said, I respect her and I respect what she does. I don't agree with everything. Yeah.
But
you
what
don't
I would
need
say
to.
And I don't need to. But what I would say is this is, do children go to that school? Are they safe? And are they leaving better versions of themselves? Are they leaving with the currency to go and be the best version of themselves? Are they leaving with more progress than 99% of any other school they would have gone to? And if the answer to that question is yes, which it is, then what are we arguing about? She's doing something that's probably never been done before in a unique way that is going to raise controversies at times, but you have a choice. I go back to the same thing. You don't have to. You get to. You get to choose what school your child goes to. I have a choice of many schools that I send my child to. And I chose the school that I thought is best for my child. And I might do something different to my second child.
I don't think you're over protecting her or sticking up for her, because once again, I think this is a society thing. And whether it's Catherine or whether it's a football team or whether it's somebody on TV or whatever it is, we always get into this habit. We have to pick sides and we can't just have this open dialogue. And do you know what? Just we move past it in a second. But like one thing I was really sad about the Catherine podcast that I did, I spoke to Andy Buck the night before. I don't know if you know Andy Buck, high up in the leadership, amazing guy. I said, like, man, I've got Catherine on the podcast. I said, oh, that's cool. Like, so I'm really struggling, like, how to start it. Like, I don't want her to think like I'm coming in for a war. That was just my, as people do when they interview. Of course,
yeah.
And he said, I've been watching this podcast recently, and the first question was like, what's your earliest childhood memory?
Yeah.
Earliest childhood memory. I said, perfect. I like it. Good. So we got there, and he sat down. So, Catherine, thank you. Done the whole intro. Shout to Nisai. But then basically I said, what's your earliest childhood memory? She's looking at me like you're looking at me now. I looked at Dave like, she's like this. And then like, flipping out. Yeah. I've ruined it on the first question. Like, genuinely, Dave, wasn't it? It was so bad and awkward, and it wasn't her fault. It wasn't really my fault. And it was just, and then she started talking, and we got into it. And I think, okay, I think we're past it now. And we cut it out of the podcast. It's not in the podcast. It's not in there.
Yeah.
For myself, for her, like, for everything. And I think when I look back on it in reflection, maybe she can give an opinion on this. I think she just thought I was coming into criticise her. I was challenging her. And when you looked at the comments and people's like, we had a laugh. Like, it was fun. Like, it was good. It was valuable. And it's not, once again, it's not personal. I could sit with Catherine, or I could sit with somebody who completely disagrees with her. For me,
but that's because you're open-minded, and that's what.
But we need to teach that in education.
No, I do. But I go back to, again, linking it all into...
Even us saying this is like controversial, but it shouldn't be.
But it shouldn't be. But I go back to linking it all in and closing the loop of my Ofsted is, so tell me now,
here he goes
and I'm going to, here I go again. I'm going to ask you this question, and I genuinely want you to answer that, because you obviously, you're well educated in these areas. So tell me now then, this is what I say to everyone. What do I do? Because I know I have a reputation of being strict, and I'm not strict, I have high expectations. There's a huge difference. But what does Catherine do? What do I do? And again, I don't think I'm the same as Catherine. I don't for 1 minute. But what do we do in schools that have these expectations different to any other school? Tell me what it is. Does she put them in the chokey? Does she go and put them on the roof? Does she have significantly high permanent exclusions compared to anyone else? Does she have high suspensions to anyone else? Do the kids leave getting worse grades than if they went to another school? What is it that she does in that school that causes such a problem? That's the bit I always ask people. So tell me, and no one can ever tell me what it is. It's because she has high expectations on uniform. Great. That's good, right? Because that's in your policy. Oh, that's right. So you have a policy that you don't adhere to every day. So you pick and choose when you want to adhere to it, and certain staff will do, certain staff won't. So I'll tell you what to do. Go back to your school, get that policy, rip it up and chuck it in the bin, because that's what it's worth, because you're not sticking to your policy. So tell me what it is that she's doing different. Because what I see is someone who's been consistent in what she said she's going to do. What I believe I am, and what I believe my school does and my team do, is if we say it, we're consistent in our approach. And we are going to go to battle, and we're going to go to war if we need to hold that line. Because if we don't hold that line, the policy might as well go in the bin. If you turn around and say that you are not allowed, and I use this one because it's an easy one, fake eyelashes, and then the girls or boys come in with big eyelashes, and you say, oh, don't worry about it because that's a nice kid. Within a week, your whole school's wearing fake eyelashes. You have to be able to hold the line. And they'll say, well, how is that affecting the education? It's not about affecting the education. It's not about that. It's about having the high standards and the expectations and preparing these children for the big wide world.
Yeah, he should give me some money for every time I mention his name, to be fair. But Stephen Worthington, Dean's Trust Ardwick, in Manchester, alongside similar community to what you serve. Even the receptionist coming in the morning. You know what the kids are like at reception sometimes. And she said, listen, if I let you off, I let you down.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I let you off, I let you down.
I couldn't agree.
And that's what the whole school...
I say that to parents all the time.
To be fair, I've got to connect you to Stephen. You're very similar. Quickly, because I'm trying to get through this, but... surely hugging and fist bumping staff or fist bumping students is not appropriate. What's your thoughts?
I think it's again, it's the culture.
Be quick.
It's the culture that you want to create. I say this is, a wise man once says to me is, staff want to be heard, they want to be seen, they want to be loved. Okay, and sometimes you show that affection in different ways.
And it works in your school.
And it works in my school. And when my staff come in, I tell them that I appreciate them. I see them, I hear them, I give them a hug, I say them thank you, I'll give them a fist pump, I'll shake their hands. And I don't go around doing handshakes with every single child, but sometimes I will say, well done, I really appreciate that. And it might feel like a fist pump moment. And if I'm going to do that, then what's the problem? The child feels that I'm relating to them, I'm finding my way now, I'm engaging with them. And what do children want? They want people who are going to listen. They're going to want to feel loved. They're going to want to feel heard. Everyone does as human beings. They do. So what's the problem? Like, I'm not saying that I advocate going in and fist pointing every single kid and high-fiving every kid. I'm not saying that. But sometimes there is a time and a place. And I think if it works for your culture, then it works for your culture.
But now what happens? Kids come up to you, sir.
Yeah. 100%.
Have a good day.
All the time. Have a great day. And you see the smile on their face because they're speaking to.
But that also might work for you. But I don't think I've ever seen Joe really fist bump somebody because he's got a different style.
And it's different style, and it goes down to personalities. Like I always say, work with what you've got. Stop trying to be someone else. I know I'm very similar to you. I'm loud. I know I am. I'm energetic. I'm out there. I'm the life and soul of the party. I always have been. I'm an attention seeker. In the right way, I'd like to think. But I like that attention. I like to walk around.
That's fine.
And I want to be that person that I'm happy to go in front of all my staff and crack a joke and make everyone laugh. Like, I'm okay with that. But I'm also know I've got the other side. When I need to be serious and when I need to have that talk, I'll also have that side as well. But that's who I am as a person. If you're not that person, that's fine. It might work for you.
Need to be.
You work with whatever you've got. There's no right and wrong to this. It doesn't mean that because I fist pump means that everyone needs to fist pump because that's the way forward.
And you're unprofessional and this and that. Yeah,
just like Catherine is different to me and it works for her and my way works for me. And there'll be other schools who have a completely different view who I'm sure are doing great things. There's not one glove that fits all. There's not. Get a big glove. It'll fit everyone. But it's you adapting to what's the need of those children, the need of those staff and making sure that works. And if it works, well, I say fair play to you. But the key comes down to the key thing every time. Get the foundations right. Start from the bottom, work your way up, get your waves, and make sure that you are putting your bets in the right area. Stop looking at things generically. You've got to work from the foundations up. And you've got, if your policy says it, then stick by it. And it's as simple as that. Do it.
Quickly, one last thing with behaviour. Rob Tan, who's the brother of Sir Paul Tan, by the way, Rob Tan said on the podcast, just for like, he's held the line. He's sent kids home for, they said, earrings or whatever. Yeah. He's hidden papers. He's willing to execute it. But one thing I said to him, like, but Rob, why would you send kids home for, my role playing?
Yeah.
And he said, I've never sent a kid home for earrings.
I agree with that.
And I'm like, well, the paper kind of says you did. Did that happen? He said, well, they went home, yeah. Yep. And I said,
they went home for defiance.
He said they went home for saying no to the head teacher.
They went home for defiance.
And you can't say no to the head teacher.
Yes,
you gave me the earrings. Defiance.
Yes, you didn't go home. I say this all the time. What you've now done is make a mountain out of a molehill. I have asked you something really simple. Take your earrings off. Give me your phone. Yeah. You have now told me no. You've walked off. You've told me to shut up. You've locked yourself in the toilet. You've then got your phone and phone your parents. Now the problem is not the phone. I'm not interested in the phone right now. I'm not interested now in the eyelashes or the fact that you've got earrings on. I'm now interested in the fact that you've been disrespectful, you've been rude, and there is a hierarchy in a school. And what we do so often, and this is controversial.
Life, by the way.
In life, this is really controversial. We seem to think that staff and students are equal in school. No, they're not. That is absolutely absurd in that. We are equal as human beings. Of course we are. But we are paid to keep your children safe, to educate your children, to look after your children. So how can we be equal? In my house, my kids are not in charge in my house. My wife is in charge, then it's me, and then it's my children. If I told my children to come off their PlayStation, they'll come off the PlayStation. If I told my children we're going to sit and eat dinner together or they're going to do their homework, it's not a negotiation because my job is to parent that child, my child, and make the best version of themselves. The same goes in school. Our job is to make sure that they stick by the rules and they have that respect and manners towards us. And yes, that goes both ways. But respect isn't earned, it's given. And I think we confuse that in school sometimes, where we're trying to think that we're all equal, and we're not. We're there to do a job.
But also, you're not there to be their friend. You're there to prepare them. They're always going to have friends, but they're not always going to have a head teacher.
Would you allow your children at home to say that I'm not reading books, that I'm not going to do my homework, that I'm not going to get off my PlayStation, that I'm going to scream and shout, that when you ask me to get my phone, I'm going to say no, that I'm not going to eat dinner, I'm going to eat chocolate? Would you allow that?
So this is where the battle is, but this is where the work is. My 7-year-old son, my oldest daughter, fine. 7-year-old son, perfect. My 5-year-old is me.
Yeah.
Everything is no.
But what are you doing about it?
Obviously, we're implementing what we're going to say, and it's hard work at the moment.
So there's the key.
And like, I feel like a bad dad. I put him to bed. I've cried about it. I feel like all I'm doing is just shouting at him at the moment, and it makes me feel like, as you can see, it just makes me feel like, because I'm in that at the moment where I feel like shit, because I just feel like I'm constantly telling him off. But at the same time, if I let him off, I let him down, and I know the long-term impact of that.
But you've just proved my point there. You've just said two things there that I think are the most important thing of this whole podcast. Yeah. One, you just said it's hard work. Education, teaching, parenting is hard work. You have to be in it, and you have to want to do it. You can't just buy in, because otherwise you're not going to do that hard work. And the second one is you just again showed your emotion, because you care, because you're invested, because you want the best for your children. And how many people turn around and just go, I'll just give in, and I'll let them be on the PlayStation all night, and I'll let them be on the phones, and I'll let them eat a Mars bar for dinner, and I won't let them do the homework, and then they want to tell the school that it's our problem. It's not our problem. We need to work together to build that, but it's hard work, and it's not always easy.
Remove the stories as well. Like, well, I didn't have a dad, so he's lucky that he's got one at least.
Yeah.
Even if it's on the, people tell those stories, don't they? And I think we just got to remove the stories, the reasons, the excuses, whatever. Yes, it's hard. Yes, things get, don't always get it right.
Well, how many children you got?
4.
You got 4 children, right? I promise you this, and I have no doubt about this, by the way, no doubt, because you're a great guy. When your children are all older and they flop the nest, probably not going to leave this mansion. I'll probably stay here.
Hey, sport. It's not a mansion.
But when they flop the nest and when your children are gone, okay, I promise you this. You see that child, your youngest, he's the one that you're going to be the most proud of. And I don't mean most proud of, love the most, but that hard work will pay off. That is the one, and that's the same in schools. Is there are going to have some children who you don't need to put as much work into, but there are some you're going to have to go that extra mile. And if you work in my school, then you need to be able to go that extra mile for that child who needs that more. And it doesn't matter about the excuses. It doesn't matter about the background, because we're all different. Like I say, life's tough, get a helmet, but someone's got to do it. Because if you don't do it, not everyone's got a dad like you and a mum like your children. Sometimes we've got to put that extra mile in, and they're the ones that make it all worthwhile. That's why we do the job. They're the ones that send you an email in 10 years' time. They're the ones you see in the street who say thank you for everything you've done. That son, your son of yours, is going to be the one when he's older who's going to hug you and say thanks, Dad. And he's going to appreciate everything you've done. You might not see it now, but that's the job that we do. And that's what we do as parents. And that's where I think we don't do that enough as parents. I really don't. I think as too often we take the easy route. And life is hard, right? It's difficult because you're trying to make a living and you don't want the hassle from the school and you just want peace and quiet. And parents go, they don't cause me issues at home because they're in the bedroom for 6 hours on the PlayStation. Of course, they're not going to cause you any issues. But we're not working together. And it's hard and it's difficult. And being a parent, I say this all the time, being a head teacher is hard. Being a teacher is hard. Do you know what's harder than both of them?
Being a parent.
Being a parent. And if you want to be an effective, good parent, then that is really hard work. It's a full-time job. And it's something that you've got to invest your time in. And you spoke about this earlier about how hard it is and tiring it is. I work 12, 13-hour days. Do you know what I do? I swear I do this every day. On the way home, I don't live too far from school. I put music on every day when I go home. And I'm knackered and I'm shattered and my brain's frazzled. And I put music on. And I rile myself up, and I rile myself up in the car. And as soon as I get in my house, the first thing my kid's going to see me, and I'm like, son. I go out, I go on the trampoline, and I spend that first 20 minutes, half an hour with them to make sure that they understand that Dad's here and I've had a tough day, and I don't bring that negativity in my house. I actually watched someone the other day who talked about that, and I was like, I do that exact same thing.
So it's, I call it the doorway trigger. So it's that reset. So it's always, how do you go from one place to the next? So like, I'll be outside sometimes. I don't always get this right. So I'm not going to pretend. But it's like, when I walk through that door, what's my intention? At this point, there's 2 hours before bedtime. 100%. My intention is to be 100% present for them in that 2 hours. Bedtime, everything, that's my intention. But as soon as I walk through the door, that's my intention. Everything else I take care at 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever. But that's going to be, it's a doorway trigger. And I try and use that a lot. And sometimes, mate, like, I'll be honest with you, I've struggled the last couple of years with work, personal, share it, like getting the balance. And as you know, I drive a lot and I could do a 3-hour drive. But but I get the drive out of the way, freshen up, clean my teeth again, and I'm like, okay, what's my intention? As soon as I walk in that reception, I'm on. My intention is I'm there.
But you know what's really important with that though, and
even sometimes if I don't feel like it, but it's like that ultimate, that reset then reminds me, then boom, I'm good to go.
But I think it's really important for you, Cameron, and I think it's really important that you've got to also understand that you're a human being and you've got to look after yourself, because life is tough.
But it's different for me. Like it's not different for me. I shouldn't say that, because you're the head teacher and like everyone looks at you every single day. You're in the same environment. I go somewhere, could be 6, 12, 18 or just a one-off, and they pay me a lot of money to be there. So I can't have a bad day.
No,
I can't be a human. Do you know what I mean?
No.
And I think that's sometimes what I struggle with most, but I've also mastered it as well.
But being a human is also your selling point.
Yeah.
And being who you are in your stories is also your selling point. And that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we click, and that's why we get on, because you're being a human, you're not being a robot, and that's part of who you are. But what you got to remember is you have to also, and I say this to my staff all the time, I say this to children all the time, you have to look after yourself. What we have to do is, yes, I work really hard, yes, I like to think I'm a good parent, yes, I like to think I'm a good father, and a good husband, but what I also do is I value now, I'm very different to when I was younger. I just love peace and quiet. Do you know what I do? Do you know what my zen is? Honestly, I do this all the time.
Table tennis.
I go to the cinema. I go to the on my own a lot of the times. I go there to the cinema. I can show you on my phone. I've probably got 300 times in the last couple of years I've been to the cinema. I go there. I just get some popcorn. I get some ice cream. I get a can of Coke, and I watch a movie. And I just sit back and I have my phone off, and I just don't get anyone. I'm not dad. I'm not head teacher. I'm not dealing with complaints. I'm not dealing with finance. I'm not dealing with staff. I'm just sitting down, and my brain is switched off for 2.5 hours. And that is where I then get my energy back, because I have to rejuvenate, because it's hard to go from school to do your job you do, come in, do the door treatment, be dad, and then I go to sleep, and then it's all over again. Sometimes you've got to look after yourself as well. And I say that to the children, I say that to the staff, is what's your part? What is the part for you that you're getting back from you to give you that energy to continue to go forward?
Amazing. David, thank you so much. We will have to do a part 2. I think sometimes when I say about a part 2, it could be maybe with another guest, but I think I'm always now looking for not just loads of different guests, a regular guest where we can dive into real good conversations and really go deep, because we didn't cover everything and we could just keep going and keep going and keep going. But what I want to say is a massive thank you for today. Thank you. Like, we've cried, we've laughed, all of it. So I genuinely appreciate it. And I'll see you again soon, my friend.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
There you have it, guys. There's another episode of the School Podcast. Do all the good stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you. Oh, no, quickly, shout out to Nisai. Do you know what Nisai are, David? The #1 online school in the world. Check them out, and I will see. That's the only bit of water you've had all day. Or vodka, I should say. Anyway, subscribe, and I will see you on the next podcast. Bye-bye.